Run a label here in Portland called Kill Rock Stars Productions. Wow, ouch. For about 13 years for my sins. And I took over Music Biz in 2019, and almost as soon as I got there, I had this idea of, hey, it's great that we do this annual conference that about 2,100 people get to come to, but, what if we went to people instead of expecting people to always come to us? And I had left Portland as the chair of Music Portland, the amazing local trade association. So I thought, what if Music Biz became sort of the trade association of trade associations, where we'll partner with a trade association in a city, and we will come to that city, and we will bring our members and talk to their constituency about, the important issues of the day. And so we just decided to do it, so here we are. And I'm so thrilled, yes, that we're doing it with you guys. Number two, not because you're number two, but because Atlanta is closer. We wanted to try it a little close to home. So I'm super excited to be doing this with Mara and Music Portland, and so I'd like to welcome her and thank her very much for everything.
When there's a big national organization and you're like, yeah, but do they get us? Really? Founding member, founding board president. It was an idea. I said, do you want to be on the board? She said, yeah, I'll be president. This one gets it. And she's leading this national organization in a way that amplifies everything that we do, connects what we're doing locally to the national scene, and is going to give us resources and access that we can't possibly get on our own. And we have to start thinking beyond Portland famous. We have to start connecting with the industry writ large. And we've got a great guide and person to help us get there. I had somebody that knows me well say, oh, thank God you wrote it down, because I can ramble. How many people have heard me ramble?
No.
Yes. Yes. No, I was just thinking about the fact that 4 years ago when we created Music Portland, because music was on the ropes in Portland, it wasn't cheap anymore, it wasn't something the city just said, yeah, do what you do. Everything they were doing was counter to music being successful, and the rates were going up and everything else. So we came up with the brand Independent Together. And I've been spending a lot of time as we're coming out of COVID thinking about what that brand really means. It's independent, period, together. And we're independent in this town because I believe we're somewhat distinct, because we are more cooperative than competitive. We collaborate a lot across genres, across communities, but we needed a place to do that because we'd all been pulled apart by the way the city had grown. We have fans locally that are willing to take risks. They support the kind of intrepid and explorer nature of our artists here. We're not following market trends. We're trying something new. And that would only work if we have a fan community that is willing to go out and see shows at more than 300 spaces that host live music 3 or more times a week every month. That's insane. I mean, Austin at this point is claiming 176 music venues. In exactly the same way, we can claim more than 300. And that's because our fans are willing to participate. And what I love about our fans is a kindness. And this is I grew up in Portland, and it's a legacy of Portland. You play something and a fan says, yeah, that really sucked. But I see what you're trying for, keep going. And that, to me, is what makes Portland an amazing music ecology. It's not because we are the finite stepping stone to big success on a national stage. That doesn't mean that creativity and ambition have to be in opposition, because we have partners like this and because we can do stuff. But what we have creatively is really unique. And that's what Music Portland was created 4 years ago, to identify and to protect, because the city was growing and not thinking about us because they never had to. So we do music policy advocacy. We've unraveled the spaghetti of city code that, unwittingly or not, has decided that, we're going to build residents in every available plot of land in the city, right next to a music venue, without any kind of acoustic zoning. We're going to do all of these things that killed the golden goose that made the city cool and hip. Because it's not the symphony that makes employers able to gather young, college-educated, highly employable people to Portland. But they're spending millions of dollars on the symphony. The state and the city have acknowledged that as sort of legitimate for funding. We're changing that. We just, last week, awarded $50,000 in our first Echo Fund grant round to popular, working, commercial, contemporary musicians. And I'm aiming to double that shit this year, so and we do that through Portland Music Month. Portland Music Month, keep an eye out on your Music Portland newsletters, which you all are gonna get now for the sake of 2 drink tickets. If you're not yet a part of Music Portland, you are now. And we are thrilled to have you with us, because standing up together is what makes outside investors and supporters go, yeah, that's something. They're galvanized. They are real. This is a thing. And it's the reason that the state legislature in February passed a law that recognized commercial music and live performance as key emerging economic sectors in the state. That is the foundation for everything, y'all. It's so dry and dusty. It's like, okay, cool. But it means that we can get tax breaks for you. We can get tax breaks for venues so that they can pay you more because they pay less for liquor. We can do all these different things.
Go get 'em, Mira.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, I won't ramble, because you notice I wrote it down to make Dan not mad at me, for fear I would ramble, but we're doing good stuff, and we need all of you with us, and all that means is you stay connected, you engage and volunteer when you can, and if you can afford $25 a month as an individual musician, or $3 a month, the cost of a PBR, 25 a year, or $3 a month, you're a member of Music Portland that supports what we do. And then definitely we're gonna all go forward together, and independent together is the only way we can do it. Independent alone means you're out of luck. Thank you. I did write this down. Now I'd like to introduce Portia Sabin. Portia Sabin to the stage. Did she bolt? Portia Sabin to the stage.
Oh, that was it? Yeah.
Well, because she knows me well. This woman knows me. She's like, yeah, no, she can run long. I'm gonna go have a sandwich.
Also thank our sponsors for the evening, ADA and the MLC and CD Baby, who is represented on this panel. So what I'm going to do is ask each of you to just introduce yourself, say where you work, and then we'll get started.
Hey, I'm Rusty Powers. I work for Sounddrop, which is a distribution company focused on cover song licensing and fast releases for content creators.
I'm Kevin Bruner. I'm the SVP of Artist Engagement and Education at CD Baby, and we're based here in Portland and happy to be here tonight.
Allison Moore. I'm the head of artist marketing at SoundCloud, and I work on our creator side of the business, which is the independent distributor.
Awesome. So as some of you guys know, because you're old enough, there used to be these things called records. And they used to be on store shelves, like at Music Millennium and other awesome record stores. And the way that an artist got his or her CD or their CD onto one of those record shelves was a pretty difficult closed process, right? Like there were a lot of gatekeepers. You had to have a label, and the label had to have a distributor, and the distributor got you onto the store shelves. Then we had this internet revolution that we're all familiar with. Everybody had a panic attack for about a year and a half. And then things changed completely. And the biggest thing that changed was the gatekeepers changed completely. You can now be an artist. I know there's lots of independent musicians in the audience. And now you can get your music to the points of sale, which are now things that are not necessarily store shelves, with the push of a button and with the help of people like this. So it has changed the landscape dramatically for good and sort of for ill, right? Not 100% perfect. So let's talk a little bit about what the landscape of independent distribution looks like in 2022, because obviously over the last 11 years that has changed a lot too. Do you want to get us started, Kevin? Because you've been around.
Yes. Yeah, I just realized that CD Baby is coming up on its 25th year anniversary, which is insane to think about. And I've been there for almost 17. And I think what's amazing, first off, being in Portland, we travel all over and speak to all sorts of artists, but it's amazing how much Portland has infused itself into CD Baby and just our culture and just our outlook on music distribution in general. I know when I started there, we had this huge warehouse full of CDs. We still have that warehouse because we still sell vinyl and CDs and everything. But it was just all these passionate artists that just love the fact that anyone could get their music out there. And that's one of the things that drew me to CD Baby, the idea that the tide has changed where all these gatekeepers that existed were no longer important for you to just connect directly with fans. And to me, that's been the spirit of CD Baby from when I came across it, trying to get an independent band out that I was playing in at the time. And it's just grown from there to be about just helping artists monetize fully. And there's so many things that have changed since that time, but to me, the spirit's still very much the same.
So SoundCloud is an interesting example because SoundCloud really was a different kind of platform. It was like a fan community platform as well as just a means to distribution, and that has changed over time as well. Did you want to speak a little bit to where you guys are right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, for sure, SoundCloud is a community. It's almost like a social network, and that's how we sort of talk about it to the independent artists that we work with. I think independent distribution is incredible, and it definitely changed the game, like you just said, but it's also created a lot of noise, and it's really difficult for artists to break through that noise. And what's nice about SoundCloud is that because it is a community-based platform, we allow artists to connect directly with their fans right there on the platform and connect with each other, with other artists, and sort of try to cultivate that community vibe. And that's what we're doing right now, offering both distribution and tools, services, things that artists need to develop and to work on their careers and hopefully make a living as a musician. That's definitely it's a huge effort that we've been working on for the last couple of years, and we'll continue to work on over the next couple of years and forever, really, because it continues to change so drastically.
So now YouTube is like a little bit of a different animal, and you guys work a lot with YouTube. So do you want to tell us how you guys operate?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sounddrop focuses on the content creator, and so we lean heavily into people that have a release schedule that's much faster than, say, the traditional, you write a record, you wait 18 months, vinyl gets pressed, you go on tour, you do it all over again. For us, our creators are, it's 1 week, it's 2 weeks, it's a single track. And then, you put out 4 or 5 tracks, you have an EP. You put out those, another 5 tracks, then you release it as an album, right? So it's like a constant schedule of releasing content. And then on top of just getting it on Spotify, I'm sure everybody else does this as well, but, we focus on making sure our music is available on Instagram and on TikTok and, these new media places where all of the fans are. And so, that's really what Sounddrop leans into.
So this just crossed my mind. In case you guys haven't gotten this about me, I'm like I'm just talking here. I don't have like a ton of questions, but I'm just really interested in this issue, so I'm always, up for talking about stuff like this. But I have recently heard that the way that people can consume music these days is that they treat TikTok like the radio, right? Like you hear a song on TikTok, and then you go buy it, like you were going to Music Millennium on Spotify. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, they also get news on TikTok, which is very strange. But you watch a funny video, or you watch, somebody applying makeup, and there's a really cool song in the background, and, maybe if it's a Sound Drop song, then it's also a cover song. And so you'll see who the name of the artist is, maybe you can click through, maybe you can find it.
Well, one thing that's, when you mentioned radio, that's interesting to me is that I was on a panel with somebody from TikTok, and they were explaining how their algorithm works completely different than what we've kind of known from social media, and that it's always trying to find an audience for whatever video you post, and you can post as much as you want. And a lot of the artists I've seen having success there, it's almost like, I think the people who consume their content look at it like radio. Every time I open up, I'm going to hear the song by that artist, and maybe a different version, or I'm going to keep hearing that. And yeah, a lot of the younger audiences are consuming, that's their radio. I've got a daughter that's almost 15, and I was telling Portia before this, my adapter on my iPod or my iPhone wasn't working to play on the car, and I turned on FM radio, and she said, "You can listen to music there?" Because I've never ever played FM radio for her before. It was just one of those things like, oh my gosh, this is a totally different world of how people are consuming content.
Oh man, yeah, wow. I would just add that, I think TikTok is a discovery platform the same way that I suppose radio, it was a discovery platform, and usually the discovery platform or area or whatever it is isn't the place where you actually go to patronize. So it makes sense that people will go to Spotify to go listen, or to go to a record store to buy a record after they hear it so many times, and they need that sort of like additional thing. We look at other, streams of income for artists, merch, touring, other things like that, not just records, not just music. So TikTok's great from that discovery point of view. That's how we look at it, for sure. We make sure we have all our music up there, yeah.
Totally. So one of the other things that's really changed since the gatekeepers changed and now you can put your music up on a platform, like boom, right away, is like the big question is what's next, right? Because I think there was a second where everybody was like, I'm gonna put my music out there and then I'm gonna be famous. And it was like, what happened is it was like taking a rock and dropping it in the ocean. It was like, plop. Because there's how many songs being uploaded to Spotify every day? It's like 60,000. I mean, it grows and grows. It's just an ocean of music. So everybody pretty quickly realized, oh crap, it's not about just putting it on the shelf, putting it on the virtual shelf. It's about what do you do next? How do you get eyeballs or ears on that song? So obviously that had changed a lot of things for services, right? You guys had to come up with some thoughts.
Well, yeah, one of the big things, Rusty mentioned it with like a lot of the people on SoundDrop are so social platform focused, but I think a lot of it is that one big shift with music is making sure that the tracks are available for the fans to do with what they want to do with them. And that's one of the big things, especially see on TikTok, people are doing all sorts of things with the music, duets, all sorts of, it's just, I think that's constantly being able to enable the fans to do those cool things that maybe the artist never even imagined or thought of, and then for us on a distribution side, being able to come alongside and help them monetize that activity, because it's going to keep evolving as platforms evolve.
Yeah, I think as one of the things that I always harp on with my artists is audience development or fan connection, or however you want to sort of frame that, because you can have your music out there and anybody can go discover it and listen to it, but what artists are trying to do, at least the ones that I talk to, are build a fan base so that they can sustain their career. And it's actually, it feels like it's a big wild world out there to do it, because like you put your song out there and it's just a little drop in a huge bucket, but if you don't really need hundreds of thousands of fans to sustain a career. If you have a core group of fans who will follow you, who will who will be there for you whatever you do next, that's kind of what, we sort of focus on, and actually been focusing on that for years, since the beginning of my career, working with a radio team who was always going to radio, and the song was getting bigger than the artist itself. It was always my job as the marketing person to come back around and go, okay, well now we have to find their audience, because nobody knows who they are. You gotta put the face to the name or the face to the song or whatever. So that's sort of the job that we do in the marketing space for independent artists.
Yeah, and I would say for building community, meeting your artists where they are, right? So Twitch and Discord are both huge platforms for Sounddrop artists, which primarily, Discord is just a chat server. Like it's AOL, basically, but with emojis. Yeah, and so you have these rabid fan bases that are you get to interact with the artists that you love, and maybe they'll stream on Twitch. They'll show you the process of songwriting and things like that. And so I think for the future of music distribution is like how exactly do we like tap into that? I don't know, but I'm really excited to find out.
That's really interesting. So would you conflate marketing with the creation of communities, like fan communities? Is that are they kind of the same, or do they have some differences?
I think so. I think that as the marketing landscape has gotten more and more digital, obviously that was a long time ago that it became digital, but as the algorithms of the social networks and stuff have become so powerful, that is really the main job. It's building an audience, it's finding fans, and a lot of the tactics that we use to do that and things that we encourage our artists to do, it's really not first nature for people who primarily call themselves musicians, right? You would get out there and you play your instrument, you make music. And now we kind of have to tell the artists, like, well, you kind of have a second job. And your job is that you have homework and you have to do these things on these platforms to engage this algorithm. Just such a weird conversation, honestly. It's very non-creative, but we try to make it creative by sort of leaning into like content strategy. Again, hate the word content, but like, what are you posting on social networks and how are you engaging with your fans, and is it authentic to you, and will people react to it, and those are the kinds of things that we worry about.
This is so crazy because it's like, I feel like, remember when everyone was like, artists don't need a label anymore? And we're like, yeah, you don't need a label anymore. But it's like, since that moment, there's just been more and more work for artists, right? Like artists have to be awesome marketers and they have to like be really great at social media. And then we haven't even gotten to the monetization piece, which is obviously next after, we've said the word monetization. And our whole next panel is going to be about monetization, so that's handy. But it really is about like now all of a sudden, instead of 1 or 2 income streams, you have hundreds of income streams, and you have to figure out how to stay on top of that.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and knock independent distribution as we're all sitting on this panel, but like I often compare it to TurboTax, right? Like I do my taxes and like I know that there's help and that there's tool tips along the way, and I try my very best to read all of them and understand them, but like when I hit submit, I still go like, please don't audit me. It's the same for artists. They're like going through the process and they're doing it, they get their metadata and their all the stuff, and then they're like, please don't take this down, right? That's kind of like how you feel, and we totally understand that that's where artists are coming from. It's very difficult. So on top of that, we're like, oh, by the way, you got to understand all the algorithms, and you got to make TikTok videos, and you got to do this other nonsense. It's a lot.
Well, what's interesting with all that is that not only has distribution changed, but how artists are creating music has changed drastically in a lot of the online tools. And so the distribution process has become even more complex because there's so many different writers, people contributing beats, and so many layers of information that are so important in the process in order to keep your music from coming down. And that's something that gets more and more complex over time. So it's not just all the options of how fans are using and platforms, but it's even just how people are creating music that's become incredibly complex.
Yeah, and it's nice to see that the DSPs, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all these places, like they are actually taking in expanded credits, which is really nice. So I produced a noise record for a buddy. And now I'm officially a producer because Spotify says so. That's that's really cool. And you take a platform like Tidal, and you can actually search by engineers, or you can search by songwriters. And that's I think that's really powerful too.
Yeah, we're not going to do a credits panel today, but that is like that's a whole panel unto itself. It's huge.
It's a huge missing piece of the distribution process, or just the DSP landscape.
And there's solutions in the marketplace, for collecting credits. The problem is that we have that disconnect, which is like a little bit of what we're talking about right now, which is artists, we want artists to create. We want artists to be creators. But it's like at the same moment, we also want them to be like hard-headed business people who are totally thinking about like the future monetization of this piece of art that I'm in the middle of creating. Which, like, I don't know about you guys, but when I was in a band, I was like, we were not thinking about the future monetization of this piece of art that we're creating. Yes?
May I ask a pertinent question?
Sure.
Okay. So for those of us that actually toured in the 80s full time at a pretty high level, and you had to show up, you had to learn your stuff, you had to be on time, you had to be good. Someone else did this promoting for you. How do you bridge that gap for those of us who are working on social media and working on this, who might be older than 30 or older than 40 or 50? What do you suggest? Because we don't sit on TikTok all day long. We have real jobs the rest of the time in order to fund our music. This is wonderful, fantastic information. But how can we fast track getting good at this without having to spend 36 hours a day at something we have that kind of?
I mean, I'm not a social media manager, but for me, as somebody who digests music in these different places, and as somebody who has seen artists on Sounddrop do amazing things, it's authenticity and it's consistency. So thinking about, and what you post isn't necessarily super important. It can be just a photo, but as long as you're engaging your fan base, whatever that happens to be, and you're doing it on a regular basis so people don't forget about you. And cranking out singles is a very, very good way to do that as well. You don't have to do it every week. Maybe, I put out 5 singles last year, for example. But it's just a way of like just staying in people's minds, when they think about, oh, I want to listen to this genre of music. Oh yeah, no, I remember, yeah. This single came out like last week, or I just saw a picture of a corgi and the song was playing in the background, and I love this. So I'm gonna go seek it out once more. But yeah, just being yourself and yeah, just making sure that you're not constantly, not every day, but once a week, something like every Thursday maybe. Something like that. That's what I'd speak to.
I think as an independent artist, I think, Portia mentioned that, independent distribution opened up. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of songs released every day. And it can be overwhelming as an artist, like, how am I ever going to compete with this? But I think what's also happened was a beautiful change for the artist is that you can build the career that you want. And you don't have to, all those mega stars that you look at, they've got massive teams and money behind them. You're never going to compete with that. And you don't need to, you don't have to. I think for an artist, oftentimes you look at those people and you just feel like it's impossible. But I think setting some real personal goals and career goals for yourself that are attainable and achievable and then push you and stretch you, but realizing that you're not going to be able to be all things at once. And ultimately, as an artist, because I'm in the same boat. I've been releasing music for 25 years. That's just understanding what you're trying to get out of it, what your passion is, and for you as an artist, sometimes just the fact that you recorded and released something in the world is awesome. And that may be all it goes to. And it's for me, sometimes that's all I needed. I just needed to get that out of me. If people listen to it and love it, that's even better. So sometimes you just have to appreciate the creation process and know that you get to do something as an artist that most people will never get to do. And that's make something that goes out into the world and can change people's lives. So that's how I think about it.
That's Portland.
I think the only thing that I would add to that is that Rusty mentioned this, and I think you did too, like about authenticity. It's very important because you kind of can't manipulate that at the social networks. It's probably worth saying, and everybody's aware of this too, that the DSPs are also algorithms. So, release schedule and speed of release and just making sure that you're constantly putting songs out there is really important. It's actually incredibly important to sustaining your business or your royalty revenue because people will be more likely to get notified when you release new music if they've listened to your music in a 30-day period and things like that. So it's important to know, but that's what we're here for. I mean, that's what the independent distribution companies, I think all of them have really strong, smart, savvy marketing teams and, account management teams and people who will help you understand. We do a ton of release planning with our artists. I mean, we help them decide if it's this week or next week or the week after that is the right time based on what else is coming out and what we know about the traffic on the platforms and things like that. So it's important that's important as well. And then I have to say that quality of music is still incredibly important. We talk a lot about technology now and music, and it's beep boop, but the act if you actually put out a good song, that's incredibly important.
Yeah, your music should be good. That's one thing. It doesn't matter if there's 60,000 tracks a day. They gotta be good.
Yeah.
99% of the time, that's basically it.
Yeah.
One thing that I think is important and that's drastically changed with the streaming world is that just the act of releasing music is promotion, because some of these platforms like Spotify and Amazon have tools that you log in and it'll push it to everybody that's following you every time you release something new. So I think it's become more important than ever to release music and keep that musical dialogue going with your fans. If you can't do anything else, just do that, because that's something that the platforms are doing. And Erica's here from Amazon Music. She's on the panel later. That she could tell you all about what they're doing. They've got some cool tools to help, that are free for you to use, that push your music to people that are following you. Those algorithms that keep being talked about.
Yeah. 10 years ago we were talking about pre-orders as being very important, and now it's pre-saves, so that on release day it's already in your library, on Spotify or on Apple Music, and that also gives you another avenue to promote, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks out, however you want to do it. You can pre-save 1 to however many tracks. So that's another thing to consider too.
I think it's also important, to understand the landscape, because I talked to a social media person not that long ago about, I think it's overwhelming for artists to be well, where do I put my energy? Look at this landscape. What do I get up in the morning, I have my cup of coffee, and what the hell do I do? And this person said, find the service that works for you, for your personality, for your, for your audience, who's out there that you connect with, right? Or that connects with you. And just focus on that one. It's maybe it's Instagram. Maybe, you get a lot of response when you post pictures of your Courtney or whatever, that, have it be one thing. Don't try to be the jack of all, every single, platform, because it's impossible, and you'll quit because you'll be so miserable. You're trying to figure this all out. Mara.
Just a quick question. Music Portland and the ASMP and a bunch of other people, Tim is here taking pictures, fought hard to get the CASE Act passed, which protected copyrights of creative content. And it's interesting, as you're talking about, you can take a piece of this and you can take a piece of that and you can do that. It's not the corgis that we care about. It's when businesses identify that independent music is easy pickings because they don't have a big label behind them that'll come after them. Is there anything you guys do in that regard that kind of help to protect the intellectual property and the creative guts that have been poured out by these artists?
Behind the scenes, we have whole teams that are managing all of our digital assets on these platforms, making sure that they stay live. If there's a conflict, going through all of that to make sure that it's sorted out properly. So yes, we have a massive team that behind the scenes is making sure, one, we want to make sure the music is up and monetized, and but then all these different platforms, especially the social platforms, have very different monetization methods, some more developed than others, and things can get in conflict and nobody's making money. So yes, we're there trying to make sure that we sort those out. Rights disputes is something we deal with all the time.
Good, thank you.
And I think our next panel is going to address that a lot, because rights management is sort of, because no one's going to get paid if we don't know who owns what. And that's the province of the next panel. Any other questions? We might as well
question.
Tyler.
I'm curious, I love all of your platforms, by the way. I think you guys are all doing a great job of what you do. I'm curious though, I know that like for me personally, my two biggest places where my music exists themselves is on Beatport and TrackSource as a dance artist. And I know that none of you, maybe not, I don't know about SoundDrop, but CD Baby and SoundCloud don't distribute to them. And I'm curious why.
We do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
And we're looking into Beatport, but it's so genre specific that, you know, the majority of our catalog isn't hip hop or dance music. So, you know, we want to be strategic for when we do launch.
Yeah, it is true that it's a highly curated platform. They don't. They
Yeah.
won't actually like. They don't even want to take everything. They just want what they.
They want what the DJs want.
Exactly.
And that's why we've never come to a deal with them, because they just want a very specific thing, and we try to work with folks that take our whole catalog because we want all our music to be monetized. Plus, when we go down that road of like saying, oh, only this type of music can be on Beatport, we'll find that artists will do a country song and call it EDM just to get on Beatport, and you would not believe what we see people try to do behind the scenes that we have to comb through and filter out and fix. So there's that whole element to it as well.
Hi. What is TikTok trying to do with music distribution? Are they trying to do a certain type of music distribution?
They announced it. Honestly, every time I've seen a platform like that and try to do music distribution, usually a year later they're getting out of music distribution because they realize that they have to manage the relationship with all these artists, which is what all of us do. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, music distribution is really hard. And you can't just say, oh, we're going to do this now. Yeah, to your point, Kevin, Spotify did it for 9 months? Something like that, and it was like you know, a beta program. So yeah, we don't know what TikTok's gonna do. But ByteDance, that owns TikTok, also runs Rezo, which is a streaming platform I think that we all deliver to. So yeah, I don't have any expectations with them launching their own you know, distribution service.
Usually when I see something like that, I think they're just interested in a small slice of artists, but then they realize they've opened up the floodgates to a whole lot of work to manage a lot of other things that they didn't realize we've already filtered out. But I don't know, we'll see what they do.
Anyone else? Questions? No? Okay. Well, thanks you guys. Super awesome to talk to you, and I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so next up we have one of our amazing sponsors, the MLC. And if you guys don't know what the MLC is, it's the Mechanical Licensing Collective. And if you don't know what they do, you need to stick around and find out, because you're about to find out, and it's really important because they have money for you.
Should we take a 10
For
minutes
real.
so people can use their other drink ticket?
Oh, would you like to take a
I'm
break,
just
Mara?
wondering. No, I'm thinking about my people.
For your people.
If nobody does,
People
then
who are
no.
walking out the door.
Community, because I'm bossy as fuck. Okay, let's see. Grab folks from the back. Portia's gonna set up the big pitch on the next one. Amazing next on.
She already did.
Oh, I already did.
He did, and then you called a break.
Do it again.
Lindsay will take care of it.
Major from the MLC.
Yay!
Hey everybody.
Hello.
Thanks for coming tonight. Before I get started, I just want to kind of get an understanding of who's in the room. How many of us are songwriters, composers, lyricists, creatives? Raise your hand. Great, cool. Any music publishers, labels? Okay, cool. All right, so, and
This
how
is
many
your
of us
audience.
are familiar with the MLC, Mechanical License Collective? Great, we got some people in the room. Cool. So I'm here to just tell you all about the MLC, where we fit into the digital landscape, and just hopefully provide some clarity to what can seem like very complicated business. So the MLC, our mission is to ensure that songwriters, composers, lyricists, music publishers are able to receive their mechanical royalties accurately and on time. Does that sound pretty good to everyone so far? Okay, cool. Yeah, I have money for you maybe, so, well, not me, but. So how many of us are familiar with the MMA, Music Modernization Act? Great. Cool. So this is a pretty, for those of you who are not familiar, this is a pretty landmark legislation that passed in 2018. There's some key things that passed during the Music Modernization Act. So one of them was this creation of the blanket license, blanket mechanical license. So what this meant was that all usages on these digital services like Spotify, Amazon, Apple, if they were downloads and interactive streaming, they're covered by this license. Before, it was a lot more complicated. You had to get individual licenses, and a lot of these services were using works that they maybe didn't have permission to use, that caused people not to get paid. It was basically a pretty complicated system to manage. So this blanket license covers the uses for those. Another thing the MMA did was that it established the MLC, the Mechanical Licensing Collective, as the sole company that could administer this new blanket license, which I'm going to get into more specifics about the MLC in a little bit, but that was another key thing about this new legislation. And then a third thing that's really important about this new legislation to understand is that it mandated that the MLC establish and maintain a publicly available database of musical works, compositions. So for the first time ever, you're able to go to a database and see all the musical works, compositions that are available, all the publishers, administrators, songwriters that are attached to those works. So that's how the MLC got started. Now, before I talk more specifically about the MLC, I want to kind of talk about the digital royalty landscape as a whole. So when your works are exploited on one of these platforms, there are potentially 4 ways that you get paid. So they're on the screen behind me. Trust you can all see that. But this is probably the most important graphic, and I do have a QR code, so get your phones ready. Once I talk about this, you will be able to scan our QR code and have it available to you. This is all, if you don't have your phone for some reason, this is also available on our website. But this is an amazing graphic of just how you get paid if your works are streamed or used on a digital platform. So as you can see, there's a very specific place where the MLC lands, and this is digital audio mechanical royalties in the US market. So you've got your performance. So when your music is streamed, there are 2 rights that are created. There's a right for musical works, there's a right for a sound recording. That results in potentially 4 different royalty streams. I know, it gets a little bit complicated, but I promise you, I'll talk more about the MLC, and then we've got a panel right after this where we'll talk about more than this. But where the MLC comes into play is number 2, under musical rights, where we pay that US digital and mechanical for those, for interactive streaming and for digital download. So if your performance right, as you can see behind me, that's your PRO. If you've got, a digital performance right, that's Sound Exchange. So I could spend a lot of time on this slide, and because I only have a little bit of time, I'm going to move forward. But for those of you who need this, here's the QR code. I'll get out of the way so you can take it.
Let me just stand out. Is it okay?
Lindsay, what's the difference between a non-interactive stream and an interactive stream?
That's a great question. So an interactive stream is basically like the experience you'd have on a paid Spotify account. So I get to pick what I want to listen to, when I want to listen to it, how long I want to listen to it. A non-interactive stream is similar to an experience you'd have if you have like a Pandora radio or a SiriusXM radio, where you don't necessarily get to pick. It's played for you. So that's the difference. Good question. Thank you. Did everyone get this QR code? All right, cool. Save that. We can put it up later again, but it's really important to just understand how you're getting paid, where to go get those revenue streams. So now I'm going to talk about the MLC. So again, we are here to administer the blanket license for all those digital audio mechanical royalties for, again, interactive stream and digital downloads. So we collect a lot of data from the DSPs. We collect money from the DSPs. It flows through us. We match that, and then we pay the proper rights holder, whether that's a songwriter, whether that's a publisher, CMO, whatever the case may be. So I'm going to cover this. This is really, really important too. So if you want to take a picture of the slide, this is also super helpful. But what the MLC does is, again, we've established that public database of musical works compositions. So anybody can go to our website, themlc.com. In the right-hand corner, you'll see public database. You could search for any works that are there. So this is something that's available to anybody, whether you're a member or not. That's particularly important for those of you who are songwriters, who are either published or perhaps you've entered into some sort of agreement with a publishing administrator like a CD Baby Pro or Songtrust. While they are collecting on your behalf, you can still go check your data and make sure it's correct and say, this is great, or maybe there's some errors here and that needs to be fixed. So this is a really helpful tool for everybody in the industry. We also administer that blanket license that I've talked about already. When we how that kind of works is we have that license. The DSPs get that license from us. And when they secure that license, that means that they have to provide their data to us every month. We process it, we match it, and we figure out, okay, who needs to get paid and what amount of money. This happens on a monthly basis. So with the MLC, you get paid monthly. We do have a great page on our website that explains exactly how the royalty process works and how we pay out. So if you have more questions on that, that is also a topic I could talk about for probably a good 10 to 15 minutes. But if you have questions on it, let me know. We do have blanket royalty page on our website that explains it as well. But we do collect that data monthly. We match it to the sound recordings. We figure out who needs to get paid and how much. And then, again, we are collecting and paying out U.S. digital audio mechanical royalties. So I'm going to stress U.S. digital audio mechanical royalties for a reason, because we pay out money that gets streamed in the United States. So if you're getting played in London or somewhere else in the world, the MLC doesn't collect that money, but we are collecting for the U.S. market, which is the largest music market in the world, so it's a pretty significant amount. So that's what the MLC does. Yes, wait.
How do artists collect those royalties in other territories?
Sorry?
How do artists collect those royalties in other territories?
Yeah, so the question was, how do artists collect those royalties in their territories? Wade is here, just grill me. So you would need to go to a collective management organization or CMO in that region. So an example of that would be PRS. Like if you're streaming in the UK, PRS would collect those royalties for you. Another option, though, is if you are engaged in a publishing administration agreement with like a CD Baby Pro, Songtrust, whatever, they will collect that money for you. So depends on if you're self-administered or not, but typically these regions have their own version of the MLC where you collect them from. Cool. So that's what the MLC does. I'm going to talk about what the MLC does not do. And the reason we do that is because it's super important, again, to understand what we're paying you and then where you need to go to collect these other monies and like what you're not collecting from the MLC. And it's not because we don't want to do this, it's because the MMA is pretty specific in what we're able to do and what we're allowed to do by law. So again, that's why this slide is also super important to understand where you need to go. So we're not doing anything in performance royalties. So the highlight there is that we do not replace your PRO. How many of us have a PRO? ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, cool. So for performance royalties, any flavor of them, you need to have a PRO to collect those. MLC is not able to collect or distribute those royalties. Another thing is we're not able to do digital performance. That's Sound Exchange, so we don't replace Sound Exchange, and they're going to come up and join me in a little bit, and we'll talk about that. But highlight there is we do not replace Sound Exchange. You do need that to either enter into that agreement or keep that partnership. How many of us have something with Sound Exchange? Great. Looks like some of y'all need to sign up. We're also, we collect specifically digital audio mechanicals, so that means that we're not doing anything for physical. So CDs, vinyl, cassette, maybe, I don't know, whatever flavor of, I know, I was like, maybe not. But if, anything physical, you'll also need to find somebody who collects that. And then we're not doing anything with video either. So YouTube videos is not something, or TikTok videos is not something that we're collecting on either. Now, if it's YouTube music, that's different because that's a streaming service, but videos is not something that we're collecting. And again, we're not doing anything outside the United States. This seems like a lot to people. Yeah? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So it is complicated, but it's necessary to make sure that you're earning all the money you can. So if this is like something that you're feeling like, okay, this is too much for me to manage, that's where these publishing administration agreements come into play, because they'll do all of it for you, and you can check your data with us. So since inception, the MLC started administering the blanket license in January 2021. And since then, we've accumulated almost 22,000 members. And we have over 28 million sound musical works in our database. So it's quite a lot of the market that we have in our database. That actually amounts to closer to 70 million recordings. So yeah, there's a lot there, and your stuff is probably there. So definitely check out our public database, see what's registered, see if your things are being collected correctly. For dollars though, data definitely equals dollars. And if you are somebody who is self-administered and you do need to become a member of the MLC, it's super critical that you get as much data into our database as you can, because obviously 28 million works is a lot of works, right? So we need to know, like, okay, which special thing is your thing, and what do we need to pay you on? And that's where that data is so important. So at minimum, when you're registering works, it's the title, it's the publisher, it's the writers. But the more data you can give us, if you have ISRCs, if you have ISWCs, the more information we can get, the easier it is for us to match those sound recordings to your work and that usage to your work. Because with millions and millions of works in the database, it's a lot to sift through. But with that being said, we have paid out actually north of $650 million in royalties. So a lot of money in the market. Yeah, huge number for us. We have completed 18 monthly distributions, either early or on time, because we do pay monthly. And we do presently have an 88% match rate, which is exceeding the average in the market. So we're very happy with the work we've done, but we definitely have more to do. So. All right, so now that I've talked about the MLC, how you get paid, all that stuff, how do you become a member, and who even needs to become a member? So membership is free. Go to the MLC.com. We're able to offer free membership because the DSPs do fund us 100%. So not only are we able to offer free membership, but we pay out 100% of the royalties that we accrue. So we don't take a cut. We're able to pay you everything you earn. But yeah, the MLC.com. You'll first create your user account, and then you'll sign up to become a member. People who need to become a member are those who are self-administered, so you don't have any sort of publishing administration agreement with I keep saying CD Baby Pro because I know they're here, but that's a good example. Song Trust. So if you're not in an agreement like that, if you're not published, you are a self-administered songwriter who probably needs to become a member if you're not already. Labels do not, no. Unless you have some sort of special agreement with your label, but typically they don't do publishing. So yeah, you'll need to become a member if you are truly self-administered. For those of you who are, I don't think anybody said they were a publisher, but if you did, you also need to become a member. It's basically the entity that has the right to collect these royalties is who needs to become a member. It is free. So if that is you, become a member now. Yes.
Do you register as a songwriter and a publisher if you're going to collect, or is it something when you go into the claiming database you claim that you are the songwriter and the publisher?
Yeah, so for us, it's just the publisher. So the difference with this is the PRO, you have the songwriter share and the publisher share. With Mechanicals, it's just the publisher share. So you would sign up to become a publisher, and then when you claim, if you have to claim a work or claim your shared or work or register your work, you would add the writer and claim the percentages of publisher. So if you are a self-administered songwriter, let's say you wrote the work by yourself, you're also publishing that work, you would claim 100% of that work at the MLC. At the PRO, you'd claim 50% as a songwriter, 50% as the publisher.
And is the PRO the combination of the publisher and the composer?
I'm sorry.
What is the PRO?
The PRO, they're a performance right organization. So if you were a composer of the work and you were the only composer on it, you would claim 50% as the songwriter, 50% as the publisher.
These are what, the BMI and
BMI, ASCAP, CSAC, GMR is another one, but that one's pretty.
Is there a list anywhere of what the benefits and advantages of each of those are? Because some of us are in that decision point. Do we go BMI or ASCAP? I have no idea.
I can't really speak to that because I'm not a representative of a PRO. I don't know that there is a uniform list. I know if you go to their websites, they will speak about the advantages, and so I'm not really in a position to.
I couldn't hear the question. What
make
was
a statement on
The
that.
question was, how do you choose a PRO? How do you know
If
what's
you
going to
Google
be
it,
best?
you'll have a lot of articles.
Okay.
Talk to both. Yeah, talk to both, and there's a lot of it's relationships and what they offer, but a lot of it is really a relationship, and so I would just talk to both and decide.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So if you are somebody that does need to become a member, go to our website, hit connect to collect, create that user account, then you create your member. After you create your member though, make sure you put in your banking and tax information because we got to be able to pay you. And that's how we pay you. But then also check our database, see what's registered, see if you need to claim something by using our claiming tool, then register anything that's new. You can also check our matching tool. This is where we post publicly all the basically all the unmatched recordings, or the recordings that we've not yet been able to match. And you'll be able to find a lot of money there. So we have several tools to make it super easy for people to make sure that they're getting paid what they deserve. So if you need to become a member, do those things in that order.
Can I
Yes.
really quick? So there's a matching tool, but you can also go in and register each of your works individually to help it get matched. Is that what?
Yeah, so good question. So the question is basically like, what's the matching tool versus registering works? So the matching tool, what that does is match sound recordings to your musical work. So if we have not been able to make a match, it's called unmatched, which is like how many times we use the word matched, right? But it lands in this, and that's where all the, like, I hate this term. We don't call it the black box, but you've probably heard of this. It's the unmatched royalties. It's because you weren't able to match that activity. So when you use the matching tool, you're saying, here are all the sound recordings that are being used on these platforms that are not yet matched to my musical work. Now, you have to have the musical work registered, though, in order to be able to match it.
Registered with the MLC?
With the MLC. for this. And if
And
you're
that's something that the publisher does directly with the MLC.
correct, if you are represented by a publisher or publisher administrator, they will do that for you.
Or you will do it if you don't.
Exactly. And this is just with the MLC. So if this doesn't count, like if you register your works at the MLC, they are not registered at the PRO. So you have to do it in all these places.
Or sound exchange.
Like if they figured out a match, you don't get any benefit from that?
Yeah, we don't have a database that we are talking to each other. Now, our data is publicly available, so anybody's able to access that, any PRO or Sound Exchange or whoever wants to use it. But yeah, right now, there's no like connection between the databases.
Very quickly, is this accessible to artists who live and work outside the United States, but whose works are sold predominantly here?
Yeah. If you live somewhere outside the United States and your works are used in the United States, yes, then you're covered there. Yep.
So, Lindsay, would in your database, if something was played on Spotify, would that already populate in your database so that would be there for someone to go in and claim, or does it have to be something that was actually registered by a PRO or an administrator?
So if it's played on Spotify, then the sound recording will populate in that. Let's in this scenario, I'm assuming the sound recording is not matched. So all sound recordings, if they're played on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, whatever, they do end up in our database, not the public database, but another one, and then they get matched to the musical work. So let's say you don't have your musical work registered with us, there's no way for us to match that. So that will sit in our matching tool for you to go find. You do need to register your work and then match that sound recording to it. Does that answer your question?
It totally does. You're killing it, by the way.
Thank you so much. In the back.
If I already have some songs registered with CD Pro, let's say CD Baby Pro, and then I have some new songs I want to release that I don't want to re-release through them, and I wanted to register on this website, can I have both?
Yes, you can. Yep, that's what we call partially self-administered. But yeah, if you're not all of your catalog is represented by CD Baby Pro or whoever, then yeah, anything that's not, you can do the rest. Follow us on social media. Oh, and this is our support team. They're awesome. They're available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Central, phone, chat, contact us. We actually respond. They're really good. So it's my team, so I can say that, but they're really good. So reach out. This is really complicated. Definitely reach out to our support team. That's what they're there for. So, and now I'm done.
Thank you.
We're going to totally have time for all these questions because these are really important questions. I want you guys to be able to ask them, but we have more people who are coming onto the stage who are going to be able to answer these questions like even more in depth. So instead of having just Lindsay answer them all, we're going to get everybody up here. So cool. I'm super glad you guys are asking questions. This is really important because these are the people that you actually need to ask these questions to. You know, one of my goals with this roadshow is to be able to give you guys real information that's going to be helpful to you in your careers. And these are the people that you need to talk to do that. So you guys need your mics. All right. Yes. We're going to leave that slide up for a sec. Okay, so we have my awesome guests are Wade Metzler from Sound Exchange and Greg Annaway from Quarterlac. So we sort of started on this whole journey in our first panel talking about distribution and how you get your song to the marketplace. But I think it's also important, especially from what Lindsay just told us with what the MLC does, is that when your song is in the marketplace, you have generated money. You have created money, whether you wanted to or not, right? You did it. Congratulations. Now the issue is how do you get that money? And the nice part is there are some lovely organizations that have been created to help you get this money. The MLC we just heard about I think maybe it would be awesome if we could start with, maybe Wade, you could just tell us really quickly, just
Yeah. I'll do a
how
quick
many,
overview.
yeah, tell us about the rights in a song.
All right, so the rights in a song?
Yeah, just tell us
All
the
right,
rights in a song.
all right, there are two major copyrights in a song. So you look at the underlying composition of a song and you actually looked at the musical reproduction of that song. So if we take a song like Respect, okay, so written by Otis Redding, composed by Otis Redding, but made popular by Aretha Franklin. So when we talk about those two copyrights, as that trickles down, as we talk about as that's played as a performance royalty, Otis Redding would be paid by ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, GMR, whoever is represented, which I believe is ASCAP. So on that side. Now the performance side, the Aretha Franklin side, when that is played, would be played by Sound Exchange. So we represent every performer and every rights owner, which is usually the record label, for a digital streaming non-interactive performance. So as Lindsay so eloquently put it before, what a non-interactive performance is really a radio-like performance. So the services that report into us, there's about 3,600 or so services that report into us, the main one being SiriusXM, Pandora, iHeartRadio, when it's streamed, not as terrestrial, which we'll probably get into. So all those stations, as they're streamed, reporting to us, we take in all that data and make sure all the artists, the performing artists on that are the Aretha Franklins and the rights owner. Now, if you write your songs and you perform them, you not only get paid by Sound Exchange, you get paid by ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, etc. as well too. On our side, it splits down 50-50 down the middle. So if you are a performer and you're collecting that royalty, you get 45% of that, 5% goes to the SAG-AFTRA AFM Musicians Fund, which is for backup musicians and vocalists. And then 50% goes to the rights owner side. But if you are the rights owner of your songs as well too, then you not only collect the performance side, you collect the rights owner side, or 95% of that side. Or 95% of it, 5% still goes to SAG-AFTRA AFM.
Okay, so on this awesome MLC chart.
This is great, by the way.
This
You
is
guys
a really
did take
great
a picture.
chart.
This is really great. We wanted to copy it, by the way.
So you'll know that number 4 is digital performance rights, so that's collected by Sound Exchange, represented by Wade. Obviously, number 2 collected by the MLC, and then we have these 2 other pieces, but the musical work is here, and the underlying sound recording is there. So those are the 2 copyrights that are then divided into 2 more copyrights. So is anyone following this? Is this completely?
So the workshop tonight is we're going to build one organization between all of us that's going to collect the umbrella up here that collects for all this.
I was going to ask a quick question, if it's okay.
Yeah.
How many of the people in the audience are musicians? Okay, vast majority. How many of the people in the audience write songs that you don't record? You primarily write songs for the sole purpose of finding other people to perform those songs that you write. 1. So this is the way I look at it. Like, for sure there is an industry of people that write music for other people to perform, and that's where this 2 parts of copyrighted music comes into play. For me, all the music I've always been into, the vast majority, 95% of the time, artists are writing the own music that they play. So you are your own publisher, you are your own composition owner, unless you've entered a publishing deal, in which case you would know about that. So I feel like it's helpful just to take a step back when we're like getting into all these different kind of divisions of the sound recording copyright and the publishing copyright, to take a step back and say, if you write your own music and you record that music and you're the artist and the songwriter, all of this applies to you. So you don't need to worry as much about these, kind of distinctions.
Which is 100% true, Gray, until you move to Nashville, and then everything switches.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so good. Is that the music industry.
It's all songwriters, and nobody records their own music.
Because when the music industry was started, that was almost never the case. Like Elvis, actually I don't even know anything about Elvis, and with the new biopic, I'm sure everyone does. But for the most part, people were not writing their own songs. You had artists, which were marketable, personas, and then people that sat in back offices or recording studios and wrote songs to make those songs available to these more marketable artists. And I think that's in my mind, the kind of music I listen to, and a lot of us listen to, that era is, far gone. And so it seems like a bit of a hypothetical distinction between the composition and the sound recording, because for a lot of you guys, particularly if you're a self-released musician, you're the owner of all that stuff.
Right. And that's a really good point, because you guys need to know that you're the owner of these things. Like I said in the last panel, like when I was in a band, like we were having fun, we were drinking something, and we weren't paying attention to the fact that like, hey, I'm writing a song that I have these rights in, and the rights creep up on you because someday you're like, oh crap, there's money out there for me. And that's reminiscent of, for those of you who are old enough in the audience to know when Sound Exchange came into the marketplace and then tried really desperately to give people money, and people were like, are you kidding me? They were like, we have money for you, and a lollipop and a white van. Nobody wanted that.
Oh, sure you do.
Yeah, it was tough. Now, thank God, things are different. And by the time the MLC came into the marketplace, people were a little bit more, down with the idea of, oh, there's money out there for me. I can get that. But Wade lived through it, which is why his hair is gray.
Nice. Are we going there?
So why don't you tell us about, how things have changed in the last several years?
Well, you are exactly right. The lollipop in the van is definitely the way. The 10 years that I've been there my team, what they do is of artist and industry relations is go out and attempt to make sure this money gets out the door. So as we look up and we research people that are being played that are not signed up with us with the team, and we try to contact them in any way that we possibly can. Anyway. Now there's a number of great tools that we're able to use to actually find these people and get in touch with them. And we've developed these relationships where it's a hell of a lot easier than it used to be. You will still be amazed by the amount of money I have for well-known artists that just will not take care of business.
You were talking to Music Portland 4 years ago, maybe. Yeah, he tracks miles going out trying to find.
For sure. And it's become much better. So we've now given out I think around $18 billion, and we give out about $1 billion a year now, a little bit over. And when that first started, that was a hockey stick stout curve that was going up, and now it's starting to plateau, but we're still talking $1 billion. So we're looking at when a song is played on SiriusXM, so about 16 point something percent of that of music of their music plays of where their music-based stations comes into Sound Exchange. So we're talking a lot of subscription money that comes into us. And so when that's played on there, take a stab about how much one play on SiriusXM makes. Raw. About $55.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so we're not talking quarters of a cent then. We're talking in the $50. So that obviously gets split between your rights owner and your performer, but still, and then you start crossing genres. You start playing on Spectrum, Alt Nation, what have you. Then that's when it really starts building up, and it's amazing if you can get on it. That's where money really adds up. When you talk about playing on one of the other stations, you are talking about a quarter of a cent or so per play, but you're talking about if I listen to a song 50,000 times, that's 50,000 plays. If your song is played one time to 50,000 people, that's 50,000 plays. So that's where those quarters of a cent really add up.
So just to be clear, the theme of today is know where your money is and how to find it, right? And so these are two government mandated bodies that exist to collect money that is out there for you. Gray is not one of those things. He's one of these things that's not like the other. Jess, can you roll back like 3 slides? Because I want to show, one of the MLC slides, which is obviously incredibly helpful for everybody, so you guys are amazing, really shows exactly where Gray fits in this ecosystem. Okay, stop. So over here on what the MLC does not do, so the second one down is administer digital performance rights for sound recordings or collect digital performance royalties. That's Sound Exchange. And then 2 more below that, administer any licenses or collect any royalties related to the use of musical works in audiovisual products, which is what Gray's company Quarter Lap does. So tell us about what you guys do.
Right, and the clarification I would say is that it's not just musical works, it's also sound recordings, right? And in our case, a lot of it's not music related at all. So I run a company called Quartalab, and simply put, we help creators maximize the revenue that they make through video platforms and social media. We also do standard audio and video distribution to all the main DSPs that you know, the Apples, the Spotifys, the Tidals, the Amazons. Tons of companies do that at this point. So what really differentiates us is that we have a keen focus on video technology, on social media platforms, and on technology in general. So we're really looking for those new emerging platforms that aren't just music streaming services, namely YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, and Instagram, and helping creators, brands, and artists maximize the amount of money that they make through those platforms.
Awesome. And I'm interested.
So, are you guys doing, how does it work as far as collecting? Do you guys do direct licenses with those platforms and then represent the artists that are, whoever are signed up with you to be able to collect for them?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
We do that, and then we also, a big component of what we do is not just collecting the royalties that, or the revenue that's passively available to them, but also actively helping them figure out how to grow their followers on Facebook, on YouTube. Yeah, so it's a combination of marketing, optimization, and like learning how to reach a wider audience and turn those casual viewers or listeners into long-term subscribers or followers of your properties, but also making sure that you're capturing every last penny that you can with respect to all of those platforms, because it's a much more nuanced, complicated landscape than somewhere like Apple Music, where you send your music there to a distributor and you're going to get whatever you get per play. There's not much you can do to game and change the amount per play that you make. That's not the case on a lot of the video and social platforms.
No, I mean, right now it seems almost like Wild Wild West as far as coming out, especially some of the new ones that are coming up, platforms and being able to negotiate for your artist with them.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I feel like the Wild Wild West was 10 years ago, but still it's, but the landscape continues to become fragmented to the point to where there's a lot to figure out. There's brand new business models that the music industry's never seen before. So yeah, it continues to evolve so quickly that it's a lot to keep on top of. And so you kind of, don't want to make it sound overly complicated, but.
Do your licenses, they ask for, is it a 1-year term, a 3-year term, or how does it work with these platforms?
Between us and our clients, or between us and the platforms?
Platforms.
The platform's always trying to ask for the longest, duration they can get. So sometimes it's 3 years, sometimes it's year to year, but it's not uncommon to see a 5-year agreement, between a company like, shouldn't call out names for confidentiality purposes, but like, the most popular video hosting platforms. Typically, they want you in for 5 years with a covenant to never sue them. So it's, they're pretty heavy-handed with that stuff.
Yeah. As long as you get a good rate, it's good, because you never know where it's going to go, but most likely it's in their favor.
And as long as you know that you're getting the best rate possible. The good thing about, and this is kind of inside baseball, but they'll get you to agree to as little as possible, but you know that the greater market forces due to all these collective bodies that go out and beat the drum for independent musicians, you know that even if contractually they try and get you to agree to something that's less than equitable, the music industry, as a whole, knows how to make us think enough about it to where the services will begrudgingly give us something closer to what everyone's worth.
Yeah.
Where's Quartalab based?
We're based here in Portland.
Hello.
So yes, another theme of this evening is we were talking before about the time when everyone was like, you don't need a record label. And it's like, sure, you don't need a record label, but you sure as heck need a team of people, right, to help you put all these pieces together. Because once upon a time when you did have a record label, that record label is liaising with all of these people, right? And trying to
We like to
collect.
think of you as being on that team. We're nonprofit and people that are working for you that are making sure that we're a part of that team.
Right. So, it's real tough. Things get harder and harder for artists every year because you have to figure out, where all this money is going and how to collect it and who you need to talk to and which pieces you need to get on your team to collect what's out there. But also, like as Gray said, I think, as Gray was talking about, video monetization, this lady asked a question earlier about, where do you spend your energy as an artist? And I feel like that does become clear, right? Like if you're an artist that actually does really well in video, that's a place that you can spend your energy and that you can then really make sure you're monetizing, in that world. So I think it has to do with finding your audience, which is what the last panel was talking about. you know?
I think as a new artist, you just see more and more creating themselves out of video. And I think that's why platforms like yourself are fantastic. I mean, I think these were a lot of independent artists who go in to make a name for themselves. They weren't even artists before they started, and all of a sudden they became artists because of the followers they had, etc. So, I mean, platforms like yours, I think, are fantastic. To be able to help people out.
I appreciate it.
It is. It's difficult. I mean, you talk about trying to collect from YouTube and trying to collect from these different services. If you sign up with the MLC and SoundExchange, it's just pretty much filling. It'd take you 5 minutes. But trying to get with all of this, it's insane.
Aside from what we do, though, I do think that historically the music industry has looked at video as marketing collateral. This is how people become exposed to your art, and you'll monetize that downstream. And that's true, but luckily over the past 5, 6, 7 years, monetizing video by itself can be extremely lucrative. So that can also be an end in itself. So half of our business is with musicians, half of it is what I call music adjacent. So it could be battle rap, spoken word, or things that have nothing to do with music. It could be podcasters. Sometimes they're successful major label artists who are tied up in a major label deal. They don't own their intellectual property anymore, but they can go launch a podcast where they own that 100%. So they can monetize that fully. So
or comedians, I would imagine.
Yeah, exactly. So I appreciate the kind words, but I think it's less about what we do and more about video now being a viable path, not just to promote your sound recordings and your compositions where there might be a lot more fingers in the pot, but you could also just have some idea. Like maybe I'm into old muscle cars as an artist, and I just want to have my own little kind of off the cuff video series where I kind of dive into that world, and you can make a lot of money through that. It's also, I think of it as like the most kind of engaging social media platform. On Twitter you can tweet, but on YouTube and Twitch you can actually go live, you can engage with your fans. Anyway, that said, I will stop for a second and say I don't have any ties or like affiliate relationship with these two companies. The number one thing I would say for anyone here that makes their own music is that you have absolutely nothing to lose by signing up with MLC, signing up with SoundExchange, and signing up with the PRO of your choice. So like if I was gonna say one thing, it has nothing to do with my line of business, it's that if you are your own music writer and artist, you absolutely need to sign up with those companies because that's just, it's free money that you're leaving on the table. You don't have to pay to register with those organizations. Unless I'm missing something, there's no reason not to.
You just got my second Drake ticket.
So it's like, I can say that because I don't have any reason to say that. Like I'm not biased, but
you're completely correct. We're nonprofit organizations that, we do what we do to make sure that the money gets into the right hands. So you're completely correct. It's all free.
Yes. So these are the things that you guys need to know as artists. There's a lot more in terms of licensing and putting your music out there onto the platforms and onto the services that you also need to know. But I wanted you guys to hear from these folks because this is money that exists. And the black box, evil black box words, right? Like the black box, you can watch the black box be created by the simple act of someone not signing up. You know what I mean? If they have a song that's getting played anywhere, that's money that's just going to the black box because you didn't sign up, you didn't collect it.
Yeah, my team doesn't want that there at all. Like it looks bad for us. To my CEO, if with the more money that we have that's not distributed, it looks bad. So we try to nail that down as much as possible.
And we already have a problem in this country, as I'm sure you guys know, with the fact that we do not get performance royalties paid for terrestrial radio play. That bill is back in Congress. It's up again. We'll all go lobby for that and try to pass it this time.
I like a little more enthusiasm when you talk about it this time.
I feel beat down, Wade.
I know.
It's been a long time. We keep trying.
This one's gonna go.
This one's gonna go. Yeah. As you guys know, we are amongst China, Iran, and North Korea as the only countries that do not pay a terrestrial performance royalty to performing artists. Awesome. And we also don't have reciprocity with other countries because we do not collect that royalty. So if you get radio play in Germany or England or anywhere, you cannot collect that money because there's no reciprocal agreement because we do not collect that royalty. So
as a performing artist, as a songwriter, you can collect that. So the same song is played. So let's go back to the example of Respect. Okay, that song gets played on, say it's played in the States, say it gets played on the radio and you hear it through a terrestrial radio, Otis Redding gets paid, but Aretha Franklin does not. But that same stream on that same station is done through your computer or through your phone, it gets paid.
Oh, wow.
What? You know, it's like, and then you talk about everything that SiriusXM is doing. They pay for everything that they're playing, whether you're listening to it on your phone, in your car, or whatever. It's not terrestrial, but whatever. They're paying for everything. So now when we talk about every other country that is doing this and is being played terrestrial, the songs being played on terrestrial radio, they do not pay U.S. artists, most of them don't, for them being played in their territory because we don't pay their artists for being played in ours.
What about the rights for the music or that copyright part? Do they pay that?
They do. So that goes. So we have been able to do something called through national treatment. So through national treatment and through it used to be called the North American Trade Agreement. I think it's called the U.S., Canada, Mexico Agreement, I think, yeah. Okay, so through that and through kind of backdooring this is where we were able to put in through the trade agreement that every artist gets created as a national and when they're being played in that territory, which means that if it's now being played in Mexico and Canada, you can now earn a terrestrial right on that. So we were able to also do something like that in the European Union as well. And now we're working on a stronghold called the UK, which is attempting to get it as well too. But I mean, what's called the American Music Fairness Act, the AMFA, which Portia was talking about, which is now going through the House and now going through the Senate. If this passes, what we're talking about is all obsolete. And in this all now everybody gets paid fairly and every territory comes in. Great, we're talking billions of dollars.
Will that come through you?
We don't know yet. I don't see why it wouldn't. We're planning on it just in case.
Bruce should talk about it.
Well, unless Gray comes in. Makes a bid on it. No, but it should. We would think so. So, hopefully it goes through. It's just, it's a shame.
Okay, I think we can take questions, so let's go for it.
Is this a great part for us to talk about how important it is for everybody to vote? Because all the things you're talking about are specifically because people voted it in, and if they don't vote, we won't get anything else.
Well, for sure, and there's also a way that, I don't have slides with me today, but there is a way that if you go on our website that you can actually contact I should send all this to you and put this on the Music Portland site, because that you can contact your local congressman or your local representative and be able to contact them directly, and we have the letter all written out, and you can add to it or do whatever to make sure that they know about it. So we go to Capitol Hill. So Sound Exchange is based in Washington, D.C. I'm based in Los Angeles, but the rest of the team is there. And so because we're constantly advocating on your rights, and whether it be through the Copyright Board and for every 3 years that it comes up to be able to make sure to try to create a stronger royalty for you anytime it's played on these services that we represent, but also something like this. So anytime we get support from you makes it all the better. When people are hearing from people, especially in their city, in their county, what have you, it's huge. Yeah.
I saw what you're speaking about through a Sound Exchange newsletter, and I wrote through to Berkeley, Wyden, and Blumenauer and got responses from all three of them stating their support for this. I think still the biggest argument in Congress is that they think that the little mom and pop radio stations can't afford this, and they don't understand who owns terrestrial
This is the NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the politicians that are saying, and a lot of politics used to be done through these smaller stations. So there was a lot of way that they got out into their constituents that by being on a smaller radio. So this is what the NAB is using, is saying, oh no, it's going to put all these smaller stations out of business. I think the license for any small business, I think the highest they have to pay is $100 a year. It might even be $50 a year. So it's in the actual AMFA, or American Music Fairness Act. that states this, and it's very plain. I think it's like 50, I swear it's $50 or $100 that any station would have to pay. Like right now, even NPR, they would hardly pay anything. We're not looking to put anybody out of business. No way. So, you know, and in a lot of these stations, a lot of them are talk radio, and they're not necessarily all music based. So, you know, we're just trying to be fair.
Yeah, and I will say about Oregon is you assume that our Oregon representatives are going to be cool, because they're cool, we like them, and, you know, but the reality is that Wyden has been a consistent sort of stalwart against music supportive stuff, and that it really is important that we participate in this just to make it clear that his people really want this in big numbers. So it's really important
Here,
that
here.
we participate.
Yeah, the amount of money that the NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters, has compared to what the music industry can spend on this is astronomical. Like just way ahead of what we can actually spend on this. So it really takes support for people like you.
Yeah.
Bruce, you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's kind of like what they're spending, they could just pay the artists and it would be fair. All the issues with small radio stations, this bill has been coming to Congress in one form or another since Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra actually launched this
He
bill.
launched it, yeah.
So all of those issues about small radio stations and everything have been dealt with. Those are not issues. It's just the continuing power of the broadcast industry that causes this to be a challenge. And it was actually, one of my favorite stories is, I think it was 2007 or 8. It was the closest we ever got to getting this passed. And the NAB introduced an FM chip bill for cell phones. In other words, all cell phones had to have an FM chip. And that was the poison pill that killed it that particular time. But that was the closest we got.
Bruce Fife, American Federation of Musicians.
Thanks, Bruce.
I got a question. So I'm a songwriter, do my own songs, do covers once in a while, put money on the table to record and all that, and release it. From what I understand, all the DSPs don't redistribute money according to the numbers of plays you have, right? It goes in a general pool.
Well, we have SoundCloud in the house. We didn't really talk about that, but they're doing fan-powered royalties,
Yes,
which is
that I heard
a
about.
different model.
Do you think DSPs are gonna go to that model at some point, or is it just
Everybody knows what DSPs are, right? Digital service providers like Spotify,
Apple
Apple,
Music, Deezer, all that?
Deezer, all this. Okay.
So they don't, where you think that it's kind of like the radio, where it's kind of based on probability. Basically, the bigger artists get more of the money. It's not based on exactly numbers of plays.
Well, how's it work with you guys, Lindsay? So as far as coming in, how it's being reported to you guys?
Yeah, so they report to us by usage, but the way the rates are calculated, and we have rate sheets on our website that spells this out, it's all dependent on like the product type. So all these DSPs offer different flavors of product. There's freemium, subscription, family, whatever. It does go into a royalty pool. So it's kind of hard to talk about the rates straightforward for that reason.
But as an indie artist, and I didn't ask Kevin before the same thing, is that it's hard as an indie artist because you think you could be, just the people listen to you, give you money, especially if they pay for a subscription. But
on our side, it doesn't matter who you are, no matter what you, if you're played, if you're Madonna or you're so-and-so, you get paid the same if you're played at the same time, the same type of station. So that part I think is good. I don't know how it works in video as well. Is that the same way? Well, depends on how many users I mentioned. So
It might be more of like a offline, like I want to make sure that I'm clear on this. My understanding is that so the way that Spotify typically works, and y'all stop me if I'm wrong, is like every play individually gets monetized at the same rate. Okay. And then what your label takes, that who knows what deal you signed. The new like fan-centric royalty model, as I understand it, says, hey, if I pay $10 a month for my Spotify subscription, and Spotify takes $5 and $5 gets distributed across artists, instead of that going into the pool of the other, tens of millions of Spotify listeners, and they all get dumped in, and every single play is worth the same amount for that month. Instead, we said, hey, Gray paid $5, $10, 5 goes to Spotify, 5 goes to the music he listened to, and he listened to 5 songs that month. Each of those songs should get one of those $5, because that's more indicative of where I would want my money to be allocated for the art that I want to experience. And I think that's what is, am I right on that? Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's what a large constituency of the music industry is trying to push, which I think is fantastic. The problem is that when you look at the overall scope, who loses money by that? It's the major labels.
Okay.
And who needs to buy into the shift to this separate business model in order for the DSPs, for the Spotifys, the Apples to adopt that? The majors.
Okay.
So it's like, all right, what's the likelihood of getting them to buy in?
Okay.
I'm not saying it's nothing.
And don't they have shares in DSPs too, major labels?
They do. So if they thought that was actually going to increase their stock price and increase the amount of people that subscribe to the subscription, then they're going to be, focused on the bottom line. But I'm not sure that it's clear that that's the case. I think what's more clear is that you're probably still going to have roughly the same amount of people subscribing to Spotify. Because most of us people that, particularly if you're not in the music industry, you just pay your $10. You don't know how it's allocated. You might kind of care, but it's not like you're going to say, very few of us are going to say, I'm not involved in the music industry, I don't know anything about it, but until they move from this one kind of obscure, nuanced business model to this other one, I'm going to pull my $10 a month away from Spotify. So I think it makes more sense. That the big tricky part about it is similar to getting like publishers to buy into blockchain. It's like ultimately it's probably a better way of dispersing money, and for sure it's going to result in less money going to the 3 consolidated powers that that be. So
But you see, as an indie artist, and then I'll shut up. But now the big playlists are getting harder and harder to get into, because all the major labels get the whole exposure.
It's payola.
Right, exactly. So we're back to what happened in radio 25 years ago.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, and it's funny because if we go down that rabbit hole, it's weird how almost like when you find out how much payola went into life before the digital landscape. In every way, retail and everything. It's like we got cleaner as an industry. For a while with the internet, the digital landscape. I was gonna say something.
For a while.
We may be back to this, but there's all sorts of other things that could also happen. It's like, because there's a downside to the way that they calculate royalties with the DSPs, which is not spoken of very much, which is there's an argument that every new song, every additional song takes money away from all the other songs.
Oh wow,
right?
really?
So it's having a massive pool of spins is actually reducing everybody's royalty rate. Another aspect of this is the DSPs could raise their damn prices, which they've never done in the entire last 10 or 11 years.
Did you hear about inflation?
Yeah, exactly. So there's many things that could happen, and also I think SoundCloud is such an interesting test case because we're going to see what happens with this over time. It's only been barely a year.
Yeah, it's been a little over a year. And we have Warner on board now, so.
Right, and one of the majors did get on board with that, so you never know.
My closing thought on that is, like, if you're in the music industry and you're in a position to kind of lobby the DSPs or whatever to shift, do that. But as music fans, same thing as being a consumer, vote with your dollars. So if you're in the position, I'm not saying cancel your Spotify subscription necessarily, but the more you can support artists through a Bandcamp or a SoundCloud or a direct purchase through their website, that's really the best way to show their support, not just monetarily, but also then they know who their customers are.
Patreon's cool too.
Yeah, Patreon as well. Yeah. So the less intermediaries you can break down between the artist and you, the fan, the better.
Unless you're listening to Tyler's White Noise, which you should just play all day long, or all night long, as the case.
I'm with it.
Yeah, I think, when you talk about, okay, they haven't raised the prices, but then you look what happened to Netflix when they raised their prices and all of a sudden it tanks, and I'm afraid that's what would happen.
Well, and that's
as well, too.
That's the one nuance I was going to say, is that Rhapsody started with I believe they did a $20 a month subscription back in 04, 05. I get it. People say, why don't you charge more? And the answer is that the market wouldn't bear it. When they charged $20 a month, nobody signed up.
I think people have learned now, and I mean, could you imagine?
It's a different era.
It's a different era.
We're 20 years
Not having
later.
Spotify or something.
Yeah, Netflix trained people, HBO, Max, and all these other services. We're just now at a better point in time. I think if Rhapsody had launched doing exactly what they did do now, they would have more success. There's nothing different about Spotify from any of the services that preceded it, but some of them tried to get more aggressive with their price points to more equitably take care of artists. It was just too early. People weren't willing to pay $20 for a streaming service in 2004.
Right, but they might be willing to pay more than $9.99.
I think so, absolutely. Especially with inflation. Now's the time to start ratcheting that price up.
Now's the time.
Peter Frampton. You guys, raise your hand if you know who he is. Come on. Comes Alive, most popular live album ever made. I happened to live in the town. It was a hockey rink. He was an opening band. They did a mobile rig in a van. That's how good that sounded. Most of it was recorded there. I became friendly with him later at South by Southwest. I had a film there, and he was the sweetest man. And he told me what he made from the biggest selling live album of all time, streaming. Anyone want to guess? Per year?
When is this?
What year is this?
5 years ago. It's in the paper, New York Times.
What do you mean?
Take a walk.
500.
100.
What?
100. 25,000.
Look, $2,500.
2,500.
Are you kidding me? The biggest selling album live of all time? Come on.
Yeah, but we don't know how that translated into someone actually listening to it through Spotify or what have you.
I think we do. Don't they have digital numbers for that stuff?
Oh, they do. Sure, I don't.
I'm not challenging. I'm just saying. I'm bringing
It
it up.
sounds like you're challenging me.
Artists.
Don't challenge Wade.
What's that?
I'll jump in and say that sounds fucked up, and I'm sure it is. However,
It sounds fucked up.
Yeah.
You think I'm what?
and I'll agree that should be fixed. The problem is that if you look at
those numbers.
This is real.
No, I know. We're not saying.
I'm saying like the end results.
I'm
But
just saying he's an artist who deserves respect.
That's
Yeah, but the chain of contractual obligations, blah blah blah. We don't know. How, none of us can speak on that in an informed
But this is
manner.
what we're talking about: is streaming and making money. And he is a star with the biggest selling live album of all time. And he made
How much money did he make off that? How much did he make off
selling?
selling those albums?
What?
How much money did he make off selling?
I don't
those
know that.
albums?
That's not my business.
Yeah.
We're
That's
talking about
crazy.
streaming now.
Yeah, but there's also the whole production part that comes into play. When you record it and then re-put it into streaming, so you renegotiate the whole thing.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a whole production part, right, that comes into
Yes.
streaming. Right. So,
Well, and also there's a whole. I mean, there's so many things we don't know, unfortunately, in that story because I've
just
looked
bringing
at
up-
major label record contracts, and sometimes live albums don't count as albums.
no, it's true.
No, seriously, it's a thing.
We don't know.
Well, and I was going to say the beautiful thing is that if he was outside of the purview of his major label contractual obligations, the major label is historically the major label owns the sound recording because back in the day you had to pay a lot of money to get in the recording studio, get the musicians, yada yada. If you're out playing a concert and you just tell the live sound dude, hey, record the 2-track bounce down, and in theory the artist would be in a position to own that sound recording. The publishers still own the songs that they're performing. But in theory, if he wasn't obligated to a major label deal to fulfill those
He would have
album,
the performance rights by what you're saying.
what's that?
He would have the performance rights for that.
Well, he would also have the master rights, so he would have master use rights
He had
and the digital
mechanicals too.
performance
He had
rights. that
mechanicals
Sound Exchange
too.
would pick up for that.
He had performance and mechanical. Just saying.
Yes, I have a question. So, I don't have a lot of knowledge of this whole kind of system that we're speaking about, but I'm wondering, supposing that the streaming services, the DSPs did raise their prices and subsequently people left them. I guess I'm a little confused because people would still listen to music, presumably, right? So how, assuming someone is listening to music digitally but is outside of the scope of DSPs, how do you guys kind of?
It's probably illegal.
Well, I think when I said they should raise their prices and they said people would leave, we're not talking about like everyone. Like it just goes to zero and there's no more Spotify. We're talking about they would lose market share amongst their competitors.
They would lose market share, and then what happens? So you talk about however much money comes in because they have this many subscribers. All of a sudden, obviously, you lose those. You lose 5% of your subscribers. Obviously, your net revenue completely, or your gross revenue completely goes down.
So if I sell my album to my fans directly through like my own website, for example, is there a way for me to get like data from that I report to you guys for?
No, because they're buying that piece from you. So yeah, they're not listening to it on a different service. They're actually you've already made that money because that's an actual purchase or a download.
But if what about Bandcamp then? What if someone buys my music on Bandcamp then? Is it like?
Then that's an actual purchase of that. That's like buying a song when you used to buy a song on iTunes.
Okay.
And you purchased a song for 99 cents. It would be similar to that, which I think you're talking about. So you take your piece of what that 99 cents of what that is, and that's what you've already made that money. They can listen to it as many times as they want.
Versus playing it.
It's the same as if somebody went and bought an actual vinyl of yours or a CD. You already made that money, you know. And then they can go play it as much times as they want or as little as they want.
I'm guessing Bandcamp's got to have PRO licenses though, right? So if you wrote your own music and people are streaming it on
They don't pay. If I'm not mistaken, Bandcamp doesn't pay streaming rights.
They wouldn't pay Sound Exchange.
They're like in a loophole,
streaming
right?
rights.
They don't pay them.
Right.
Not Sound Exchange, but
so they're not
performance
considered
rights.
a streaming service, Bandcamp.
No, you're purchasing from there.
Right, but you can still stream it on Bandcamp. Right. I heard from guys at Easy Songs that told me it's a.
I don't know enough about
it's
it.
a
I
loophole
couldn't speak to it.
Well, the artist has to explicitly give permission.
So they do?
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of my stuff on Bandcamp, but I know that they don't pay streaming. Because you can stream on Bandcamp. It's kind of like.
I think you have to allow it. Like often there's like one song on the album.
My quick thing on this would be like, if they do or if they don't, I would still sign up with MLC or Sound Exchange and ASCAP or BMI, because if they're not paying royalties out right now, eventually the lobbying organizations will get to them and force them to. And those are the organizations that are going to help you collect those incremental revenues when that happens.
That's a really good point. Sign up anyway, because if they don't have a licensing deal now, they will at some point. Dan?
I was going to say, I think one of the takeaways is from the room is that you need to know what your ISRC codes are.
For sure, and as you mentioned that, so Sound Exchange has the actual ISRC database on our site. So if you don't know what they are, it's all housed on our site that you can go and actually get them. If you don't have them, you actually have to file for them and get them yourself. But if you're just looking for them and you need your repertoire, whether it's turned into anyone, you need it correct, then you can get them off that site.
Can you clarify what is that? What is
It's a
it?
sound recording code, ISRC.
International Sound Recording Code, I believe it is.
It's the unique identifier that it's like the UPC or the barcode digit that associates with a sound recording.
And we get those from registering with you?
You don't get them from us. You have to actually, either your distributor or your label would actually get those, or if you put them out yourself, you could get them by filing for an ISRC code. If you have already done this and you don't know what they are, you can go on our site and you can find out what those codes are.
But yeah, as I say, if you distribute your music through CD Baby or any similar company, they'll issue your ISRCs, and if you don't see it immediately, you can just contact their support and they'll let you know what your ISRCs are.
Actually, you know what? Just contact Kevin directly. He really loves it.
You can also, if you don't know your ISRCs, you can, if you use our matching tool, you'll see at least what's being used at the DSPs. So there's several options to figure out what those are.
All right, you guys, you got a lot of questions, but we have to move on. We have one more panel tonight, so thank you guys so much for being with me. They'll be here. We're not going to take another break. Instead, I'm going to have the CD Baby presentation, so I need Christina Cano to come on up.
Hello. How's everybody doing? Good.
stand-up comedy, but I don't know jokes. No dancing. Hi, I'm Christina Cano. I am the engagement, what was my job? I am the event and community manager at CD Baby. I'm also a musician myself. I'm a huge fan of what we're doing here tonight, which is just talking to artists about everything that you possibly need to know about working in this industry as an artist, as a manager, as a publisher. There's so much. And one of the things that CD Baby does the most is try to give you as many tools as possible to handle those things on your own. Because at the end of the day, DIY is the best way to be. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But first I want to just say that I was sitting in the back of the room and I was thinking about the first time that I ever came into this building, which was in 2010 maybe. And this was not what this is. It was an abandoned school that sat abandoned for the majority of the year. And then once a year, it would be this like incredible, very DIY art space of just like super punk rock, very raw. And you would see the most incredible performances just like be bred in this space basically. And I remember being in the main room where like Rev Hall is now. And I don't know, maybe some people were even here, but Japanther was playing. And they were this like amazing energy, amazing punk rock band. But at the same time, on stage, there was like this big blanket and there was like these shadow puppets happening. And the room itself was completely packed and everybody was like, I mean, it was completely breaking fire code. There was like firemen in the room sort of being like, oh, we don't know what to do because everybody's having a really good time. And at one point, everybody just like runs to the stage and the shadow puppet wall comes down and the energy is freaking amazing and there's just like sweat and love and everybody's having the best time. And that's the first time I stepped foot in this building. And now here we are, and there's all these people in this room that have been here for a long time, some. I can see people that I know that I've played shows with and people that I like recognize from the industry. And it's an incredible thing to be in Portland and to see the community of artists that have been just like transcended this shift that's happened in the music industry where so many things have changed. And CD Baby has been one of these like sort of local champions for making sure that artists can have everything they need to get through this new shift in the music industry, because a lot has changed, obviously. A lot has changed since we polished up the building and put better seats in and tried to sell tickets to the shows that happen here. So just like this building, a lot has changed in the music industry, and we're here to make sure that you have everything you need to sort of like navigate your way through it. So we have the DIY Musician brand itself is our blog, our podcast, our conferences, things that we like to offer, you know, all this sort of information, but then also all the tools. So I know that we talked a little bit about a lot today about how to collect money, about how to get your music out there. So obviously we do all of that. You know, all you have to do is sign up. I think it's $4.99 currently for a single or an album, which is sort of insane because it's just one time and then you like never have to pay ever again. You don't have to pay for barcodes anymore, which is amazing. And then on top of that, we also help you collect a lot of these royalties. If you use CD Baby Pro, we will be your publishing administrator as well. Why am I shaking? I think it's because I haven't talked to anyone in a long time on stage.
There you go.
And you know, we also help. We have an amazing think tank that will pitch your music to like TV, film, commercial placements. We have an incredible group of people that do listen to like everything and make sure that it, you know, all of your metadata is correct, make sure that the album art will fit on all the DSPs, because a lot of these DSPs sometimes have like some rules that we have to follow. So we make sure that all of that is up to code. But more importantly, we're always here to help. So we have an amazing support team that is willing to talk to you if you have questions. So that's a little bit about what we do and the resources that we have. And if you want to use CD Baby, just go to cdbaby.com. Also, we are Portland-based, so a lot of the people that are here are actually CD Baby employees, CD Baby advocates, CD Baby network net users. How many people here use CD Baby or have used CD Baby at some point? Amazing. So yes, please come talk to us. Like, we want to have conversations with you. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here. I'm going to keep it brief because I know we're all hungry. I'm hungry. To say thank you so much for being here, and to also just remind everyone that this is a fucking awesome music city full of fucking awesome musicians. And we are so honored to be a part of it. So thank you. I had something else to say? No, that was it.
All right, you guys, I know everyone's getting hungry, so let's do our final panel of the night. I hope they're here. Half of them are gone. Oh, man. I don't know, they're out getting booze.
It's not my fault.
We need Andrea, Erica, and Angela. All right, hello, ladies. Woo.
Mic check.
Mic check. All right, so let's start down here. And have you introduced yourself and tell us where you work?
Hi everyone, my name is Erica Sinkvik. I work for Amazon Music, specifically Amazon Music for Artists. My job is to help connect musicians with ways to make money on Amazon.
Are you guys sensing a theme?
Yeah.
I'm Andrea Slobodian. I'm the head of technology at ADA, which is the independent arm of Warner Music. And I also oversee Level, which is our DIY platform. And before that, I used to work at DistroKid, so I know a little bit about DIY distribution. And now I'm on the major label side for the first time.
Yay! I'm Angela Womack. I'm the lead product manager for CD Baby. What I do is kind of complicated. It's very back end. I take business requirements or updates, features, make them digestible for the development team to build them and update the website and keep the website going.
Awesome. So I wanted to do a panel about new technology with these amazing ladies because when I used to run Kill Rock Stars like about 10 years ago, I started getting these emails about from these people who just showed up in the music industry one day and they were like, I have the most amazing thing, you're totally gonna need it. And it's you text this number and when you're at a show and then you get a hat. And I was like, and they were like, and we just got a $15 million investment from somebody. And I'm like, what? Wait, I want $15 million? What? I don't have that problem. What's going on? So I feel like there was a while there that new technology was coming into the music industry and it was just totally not useful, right? It was just it was solving problems that we didn't have. Right? And I think it was mostly tech bros and guys who got investments and they were like, we can solve all the problems in the music industry.
But Portia, I have a great idea.
Exactly, right? I have a great idea for us to say something that nobody needs.
Your catalog to get it off the ground.
Exactly. How about if you give us everything you own for free and we'll make sure every fan can, get a beer koozie or a hat. Exactly. It was really crazy. But things have changed. That's the most amazing part to me, is things have really changed. And people are coming into this industry, they're having some respect, respect for the industry, understanding the industry a little more, and they're bringing products to the marketplace that are actually useful and are solving real problems for people. So now we're gonna talk about NFTs. We are 100% not gonna talk about NFTs right now.
I was like, when I brought that up to Andrea, she was like, why don't you want to talk about NFTs? I was like, because I want to talk about technology that everyone can actually use. But Andrea had feelings about it as well.
I don't have that strong of feelings about it, but I feel like it's at least worth talking about because I think a lot of artists are wondering if they need to be in the NFT game, so I just at least wanted us to be able to say no. In the NFT game. I think the three of us kind of agree on that. But it's really kind of a solution in search of a problem. In theory, the world of crypto could be so great. It could actually be this decentralized way for artists to make money and you would never have to deal with any middlemen. And if you cut out all the middlemen, that would be great. But there's just not the adoption from the industry for music to be monetized in that way. So right now, anything that's NFT or crypto based is a marketing campaign. So I think as long as anyone who's thinking of going into NFTs knows that it's just a marketing campaign, then you're fine. But it's not really more than that. It doesn't really solve problems. for people yet.
How long have we been talking about blockchain?
Oh my God, don't get me started
Okay,
on blockchain.
there we go. Okay.
That is really like
Let's
a
talk
bad
about
topic.
blockchain portion.
Bad topic for me. Because I'm the one who always says the thing about blockchain is it's a great idea, it sounds really cool, and if it worked, it would be amazing. However, have you ever tried to get an artist to update their mailing address? Oh shit! End of blockchain. I'm like, hey, when we can fix that problem, we'll be golden. We'll do all the
So, like,
blockchain you want.
I mean, how hard is it for Sound Exchange and the MLC to pay people?
Exactly.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
So anyway, so these are the new techs that we're not going to talk about. What are we going to talk about, ladies? You guys have already figured this out.
Well, one thing for CD Baby, what we pride on is educating our artists. I know so many of you use CD Baby. We hear positives of our submission flow and how much information we do provide and do give, and we really take pride in that. We really take pride in all of as many details as we possibly can without getting complicated, and we take pride in offering tools and services so you can have the ability to market your release like a major artist does, or get any opportunity that you could possibly get, think licensing, etc. One new tool that we'll launch on cdbaby.com very soon is from our partner Foundy, and it's called the Manage Ads program. And it's going to be really simple and quick. You let us know how much your budget is. They'll design the ad for you. Boom, get it out to sites to help promote and advertise your product. So that's one new tool that we have. But when you are in the flow of CD Baby and you do put out your release, we do have a whole tools and promotions page where you can find different companies, get Bandcamp, get access to all these different resources to help promote your music.
Yeah, I feel like promo tools are like, it's the one area where I see a lot of new companies emerging and trying to get artists to buy into it. Like even, I mean, what's interesting is like even Spotify is now investing in promo tools for artists and like teaching artists how to advertise for themselves. So it's like almost a given that music today, if you just put it out into the world, it's not enough to get the types of plays and the types of traction that you need. Like you also have to have a promotional strategy. And I think that was one of the biggest things I realized going from like DistroKid, which is completely DIY. There was almost no promotional support for artists. There were like fun little gimmicky things. I don't know if anyone has used like any of the DistroKid like video generators, but those didn't really like push the needle for artists. And then compared to like ADA, where we actually do services and marketing as well, that's where I really realized how much money goes into figuring out marketing campaigns for releases. Like there's just like that, the idea of like getting viral organic growth as an artist without having some type of like video platform or some like viral TikTok or some becoming like a meme is just really hard.
We talk a lot about voice. So in Amazon Music specifically, a lot of people, particularly during the pandemic, using voice technology, to listen to any music, anytime, anywhere. But there's also a lot of fun things that artists can do with voice technology that's completely accessible and free to you today. So like I said, I represent Amazon Music for Artists specifically. We're a scalable platform to help you, self-service and take advantage of all of these tools that are available through Amazon and try to help make sense of this wild and crazy, big global world that we're, all trying to live in and are connected to each other, through the internet. And so with voice technology, you can record an audio liner today and it'll go up on Amazon Music on your artist profile in 24 hours, and it can be up to 3 minutes long, and we're constantly hearing like artists want to be able to directly communicate with their fans, and it's like, well, here are the tools, use them, experiment with them, intros, new release intros, same thing, it's a short 15-second, hey, this is, DJ Chixie Quap in the audience, listen to my new album, that kind of thing. These are all available to you today, and it's really fun to see what artists are doing with them. Artist follow campaigns, I could keep going, so.
And one cool thing about using the DIY submission service is like these for artist platforms, Spotify for Artists, Apple for Artists. We connect directly. You guys don't have to worry about trying to get like, how do I get this? How do I get my account? We send the metadata, the information over to the platform, help you get your artist page verified so you can get this back-end information. This is the first time ever where you have that information in your hand on your phone. You pop open the app, you can see how many plays that you've had for the month or the week or 7-day period, or what playlist that you're on, if you got it on any playlist. So it's really cool, and going through our platform is an automatic process for you if that's what you decide to do.
I think, I always say that music business is a patchwork of historical accidents, which should make us all feel better all the time. But one thing that has really happened in the last 10 years is we've really seen a shift in, especially the tech companies that have come into our space. Like I said, in the beginning it was these dudes who were like, we have a solution to this problem that you don't have. And those people have largely gone away. Like, I remember one time going to Red Eye, which was where Eric and I first met, our awesome distributor in North Carolina. And there were two guys from Spotify there. And they were both like 24 years old. They were both like super muscular and wearing those like muscle t-shirts so you could see their muscles.
I think it was a deep V.
Oh yeah, they were, and they were, we're like a punk alternative label, and they did not know what we were playing for them at all. It was very embarrassing. And later at the bar that night, I was like, so what did you used to do? And they were like, oh yeah, I was in investment banking. And I'm like, yeah, clearly. But it's like those people aren't there so much. It's like we've been repopulated with real music people. It's like the big companies have started to truly hire in the last 10 years people from our world. And I feel like that has changed so much. Like you said, Spotify is now creating tools for artists to use for real. Like they're actually trying to help. They're not just trying to take people's money.
Yeah. I think it kind of speaks to how much easier it is for artists to build their entire careers from their bedroom. Like DIY isn't just like a trend. It's like there's so much power in DIY. And that's frankly why Warner hired me to work at ADA, is because they realized that DIY artists have huge amounts of power, and so many artists don't really need their labels. And like, even like you kind of mentioned, I mean, it was really funny, but like when the tech bros are trying to sell apps to you, they're basically just trying to get access to your catalog for free, or they're trying to get access to your fans for free. And I think really though, what that tells us is that artists have so much power because you have your art and you have your audience, and that's yours. And I think it's so much harder for like middlemen to get in there and take that from you. So the DSPs have to like go direct to artists as much as possible. And the only reason like the DistroKids and the CD Babies of the world exist is because operations and like metadata management and all of that is just so freaking hard that like Spotify doesn't want to do it. Like they tried to build their own distro, and then they gave up and invested in DistroKid instead. And then when fraud became a really big problem, they tried to solve it on their own, and then they also gave up and came to DistroKid and asked us to solve it for them. So I think a lot of what distribution is doing now is kind of like the grunt work of getting music out into the world and managing metadata, but it's really artists who like are holding on to all the power right now. So it's a nice time in technology for artists.
And it's also like I like this whole trajectory of this conversation, because it's like we are seeing so many different options popping up in the marketplace, and also things that are right for you as an artist today that maybe are not right for you in 5 years, or it's like you're gonna have a career arc, because we're seeing like a lot of major label artists getting done with their contracts and then taking their rights back and then going DIY, going to a CD Baby or a DistroKid or an ADA or somewhere else, and going direct, because they've found that they can make the most money doing that,
Yeah. And I like the theme that we've all talked about all night. It's like, unfortunately, artists, you're the creator and you're a creative. And then without the label, and now you have all of this work to do. You have to manage your social media. You have to organize your liner notes. You have to do all of this work that at a label, you had a team to do it for you. You just had to go in, create, and come out. And, platforms like CD Baby, we try our hardest to have the submission flow where, these are all questions, and I know it could be like daunting, but it's important. It's very important to keep this information. You're now your company. You're now your label. you have to, and we're helping you manage that. And we're helping you keep it together. And we talked briefly about ISRCs, and we were laughing in the back because that's one thing I wanted to champion during this conversation. Please,
we were all talking in like our prep conversation like about how important managing and maintaining and like the accuracy, and like when we say maintaining, we mean like every time the same recording is used, you maintain that ISRC no matter how many times you use that recording on different albums, different releases, whatever. Make sure it's consistent. That's what we mean by maintaining.
And there's so many platforms that are you can have your music played and earn music from. I always tell artists that are friends of mine, your ISRC is like your social security number. Everything you do, you're gonna have you're gonna use your social security number, so you have to remember it. Like, you're not gonna apply for a loan and say, oh, I don't know what my social security number is. And that's the same for your music. You have to have your metadata, and you have to have it organized and kept somewhere where you can reference it properly. Because if you don't, and you go to us, you go to ADA, you go to DistroKid, and get a different ISRC assigned to it, then all your metadata gets messy, and then you can't keep track of this one song here and how it's progressed, and your streaming and making sure that stays onto all the platforms.
The ISWC is your composition. That's different than the recording. So if you have a live version, a demo version, the studio version, the remastered version, these are all different recordings of your ISRC. Sorry, Portia, I tricked you. This is actually a panel about metadata. Let's do it.
Everything is actually a panel about metadata. That's the secret. In the music industry, it's all metadata.
The first job I had in the music industry, and this is where I met Portia, was digitizing the entire Kill Rock Stars catalog and delivering it to every DSP. So ask me anything about that catalog. I can tell you what to
Question? Sorry. When you said ISP and you said it was multiple recordings, you mean that's the one ISP for the song, or each recording?
Each individual recording, ISRC, sound recording. Yep, okay. That's the way I remember it.
Okay.
ISWC is for all four?
Is the composition.
Okay.
So if you were to write, Jingle Bells down, Jingle Bells, no matter if I sing it, or if Andrea sings it, or if Angie sings it, we might have different ISRCs, but it's the same ISWC.
And I recently heard an artist talk about how he did a deep dive into his own catalog and went through all the services and went through the MLC and the Sound Exchange, databases to make sure that everything was correct. And he said it took him like over a month to do it, but that he actually increased his income by over 70% by doing that, which is, I know that that's asking a lot of people, but that is a lot of money that was not being properly.
Here's a fun fact for you. Queen, the band, has a database developer as their one and only full-time staff member because this person's person's full-time job is to manage their metadata and make sure that they're getting paid on everything. That's how important it is. That's how important it is. I tricked you. I know you invited me to talk about technology, but I'm always ready to talk
about this. And recently we managed to not say the word metadata until this panel, and I don't know how we did that. Normally it's like the first thing.
We love you.
I think one thing also worth mentioning is like ISWCs aren't a number that you just get for free from your distributor. Like distributors will always, DistroKid has a really splashy landing page. It always says like you keep 100% of your royalties. A lot of distributors promise that, but that is just like the streaming royalties. So you just still have to, you were listening to all the other panels, so you do still have to sign up for Sound Exchange and MLC and everything else to make sure you're collecting the rest of your revenue, because you won't naturally get like an ISWC from your distributor. Like your distributor isn't like incentivized to protect your works, they're just incentivized to distribute your recording to market.
So I'm going to keep going. This is so important because no matter where your music is going, right, things change over time. Portia and I met 10 years ago and we looked exactly the same.
I think it was more than that, but go on.
Who who's doing math right now? But you don't know where that music's gonna go, right? The landscape's constantly changing. Like we used to, when I was at Red Eye, we would deliver to Xbox, right? So, and now look at how the gaming world has changed, right? That's a new technology in terms of people going online to play games. What does that mean for your music catalog when that music's played in a game? Or if you're doing, let's see, we did, I think it was Minecraft Music Festival, where literally we had artists that were doing a full music festival inside, Minecraft, but it was also streamed on Twitch. Think about all those different royalties that had to get paid to make that happen. So it's really important.
So just like, what is your takeaway? So what's exciting about the current landscape, in technology? What has technology done for us that's exciting to you guys?
I'll jump right in. Meeting listeners where they are and making sure that you can monetize on top of that, or at least be credited so that people can find you. That's why we talk about voice technology. That's why we talk about gaming, Twitch, live streaming, live performances. The gamut is. The theme I see is really about meeting fans where they are and making sure that your music and your song credits are everywhere that your music is going as well.
I think not to be the person that wants to talk about crypto and buzzwords, but
NFTs?
I do it. No, I was gonna say metaverse and then vomit a little, but I do think it's important to realize the way technology is changing is that we're getting older, audiences are staying the same age, but the audiences that are very lucrative and can really create virality and extreme fandom for artists, audiences that are highly valued, are more and more online. And so more and more of our world is moving into Web3, which is to say they're not just scrolling Facebook all day or using different apps that are all still kind of connected by links and URLs and that ultimately funnel into traditional streaming services. But more and more what's happening is people are moving into virtual spaces. People are spending time in video games with their friends, and they're not always the way that music is being streamed while you're gaming is usually through some bot on Discord that may or may not be using a proper license. But more and more, the music industry is kind of getting its tendrils into this metaverse. Warner has invested a ton of resources into making deals with a lot of metaverse companies like Roblox and getting into Minecraft and trying to have concerts in Fortnite. And so we are seeing this becoming more and more of a formalized thing. And I think you're even seeing the format of music changing as a result. One really big push that we're seeing from Apple Music is spatial audio. So immersive audio, which is really, really expensive and difficult to get your music mastered for spatial audio right now. If you're an ADA client, you can have access to some of our studios that we license through Warner and have them master your music for spatial audio. But I would never pay that personally for my own music. It's cost prohibitive. So I don't think that's super accessible to a lot of people yet. And yet there are more and more kind of DIY spatial audio mastering services out there if you wanted to dabble in that. So even though Apple is promoting it and some people have the fancy AirPods that let you listen to it and you can hear it in Teslas, it's not this super adopted technology, but it is indicative of everyone is investing big in VR, and spatial audio is how music is going to be listened to in VR. So if you kind of look at where the big tech companies are investing, they're all investing in this idea of virtual place. If you look at where the youngest audiences are spending the majority of their time and their attention span, it's in virtual places where music is streamed through games or Discord. And then if you look at the way audio is changing, it's more and more attuned to these virtual places. So even if you're not ready to get all of your audio remastered in immersive formats yet, it's still good to kind of be aware of that and know that it's coming.
I think for me, piggybacking on both Erica and Andrea, what they've said is still meeting the artists where they are and giving DIY musicians a house and an opportunity where all of these things would still, you can potentially have access to them at CD Baby. I've worn many hats in the music industry. I've worked at major distribution companies, and I'm a I fight for the underdog. So I love having the opportunity for if somebody wants to just try it out, here's a platform for you. Like I said, $4.99 right now, lowest price ever. Any album or single. And you still have access. Not only will we help you go through the distribution process, will we educate you, but you will have access to all the current tools, all the the up and coming companies, all in one platform. So that's what I love about working at CD Baby as well, and the future.
Questions?
I kind of want to get in on this metadata conversation,
Yeah,
but maybe in
girl.
a less dry way. So like, it's super important. I'm a software engineer. It's super important to get your metadata in control. Super important. But one thing that like isn't really metadata that I see screwed up a lot is your band name. Pick a band name and stick with it. If you're using the word "the" in front, always do or always don't. If you're using "and," always do or always use an ampersand. If you're like a musician with a band, so-and-so and the whatever, pick a name, stick with it. You'd be amazed. So if you don't know me, I'm Liz. I make Near Here. It's for integrate with Spotify to do music discovery for shows. I take event listings, integrate with Spotify. You can listen to the bands, find your new favorite band, whatever. But half the problems I have to manually fix are your band name that you told the venue don't match your band name on Spotify. And I would bet if that's the case, it doesn't match your band name on Apple Music, doesn't match your band name on Amazon Music. Pick a name and stick with it.
I'm gonna +1 for us.
Well, one thing that we do at CD Baby is we do what they call utter separation. So if you do, it happens all the time. So if you do have an account and you submit your band name 14 different ways, when we are setting up for the artist for music channels through the various partners, we do work with that. We do give you a list to show you, hey, is this your name or is this your name or is this your name? And then we try to help merge those accounts for you.
Yeah, and I mean, at Kill Rockstars, I mean, our biggest artist is Elliott Smith, and there's a million ways you can spell Elliott Smith, and they do, people do, and then you have to go chase all of these ELIOTT, you know.
Question. So I do actually have this problem where I have a record under my own name and a record under my band name. I'm also curious. One of my records was on streaming services, and then I maybe decided 5 years ago that I didn't need to keep paying to keep that record out there, and so it's been taken down. So what happens with the ISRCs, like if I want to put it back?
They're the same ISRCs.
Okay.
As long as it's the same recording,
Yeah.
then it's still the same product.
That's good to know.
I say product.
Terribly frightening stuff.
Oh no, you need to go to whoever distributed that music at the ISRC. As long as it's the same recording, you can associate that with your new distributor.
It's never too late.
Hi, thanks so much for that. Super interesting. I had a conversation with French PR Sassem in LA a few years back, who was telling me how obscure the rights were in China for streaming services and all that. I wonder if you have any clarity on what's going on, because it's a huge market. It seems like TikTok's getting big too. There's a lot of streaming. Do we have a lot of clarity on, as much as we have in the US or in Europe, on who's streaming our music in China?
So I'm going to take my Amazon Music hat off, and I'm going to come to you from Erica, Women in Music, X-Ray FM, you name it, any other hat. And just from distribution experience, same thing. There's only, because China's a closed market, there's only certain businesses that can operate there. Tencent is one of them. Some some distributors have deals where they can deliver to Tencent. So find out if your distributor is delivering there.
My music's with CD Baby. So does CD Baby get distributed? Does my music get distributed on streaming services in China? Because the market is getting huge.
Yeah.
It's not a trick question. I'm just
And that's
curious.
what, but that's one of those things where it's like China has been a tough market, right? And
Because
all
when the guy
the,
from Sassen tells me that,
right, all the companies are working on that. Like people are working on it, but no one has, because that's the thing. It's like we started this discussion with, some rando dude wants to license your entire catalog to some service where they're never going to pay you. And what the music industry is now trying to do is not give its entire catalog to that dude.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's like China right now is that dude. Like we don't want to just let our rights go.
Okay.
So people are trying to be careful and
And there's
really
probably
feel it
political
out.
implications with it too.
Yeah.
There's political implications probably. Yeah.
Sure. But like also we don't want to give our music to that dude.
Okay, thank you.
But you can check in your account when you have released and record is out. You can go under your album and your members account, and it will show all of the distributors and all of the platforms that your record has been distributed to.
And
also,
what's the Chinese one then?
Tencent.
Tencent is one of them, and I think there's only like 2 or 3.
Like the numbers?
Yeah. And then our artist services department can definitely help and dive into your account more and let you know where everything is.
Tencent.
Okay.
Tencent.
I'm sorry. If an artist finds that their ISRC is being used by someone else who is squatting on it and getting paid, what is their recourse?
I don't think someone can squat on your ISRC unless they're actually distributing your recording. Because, like, one of the things, so you guys should jump in if I'm wrong here, but like, if I tried to steal your ISRC and release, or let's say I tried to steal Johanna's ISRC because she told me that it's not up anymore. So I know there's no recording out in the
Insider
market.
information.
Yeah, thank you. And I try to release a different, like just a totally different song with that ISRC. That wouldn't work because you can't redistribute audio with different metadata. Like you can't just mismatch an ISRC.
I think I didn't connect it correctly. It's an existing piece of recorded work. It belongs to a particular artist. But the ownership or the distribution rights or whatever is being claimed, it's being placed or has been placed in the past by maybe someone who had connections to that product 20 years ago.
Yeah.
What can the artist do? Does the artist have standing? I mean, you can write takedown letters all day, but...
Well, that's one good reason why I have a distributor. We're here to help with those distribution rights. I actually had a friend who, on the RIAA website, when you apply you can apply for your own company to have your block number of ISRCs. Well, their intern used the example dummy code that they have on the page and didn't read all the other instructions and was applying that example dummy code to their whole catalog.
Oh no.
And my friend was like, Angie, I don't understand. We keep on getting these disputes on YouTube. So someone else did the same thing. And so the process was they actually had a major distributor to help them claim that right. They worked with all of the platforms in that dispute. So that's one thing we will help you with as well. If you have a dispute and you have a distributor CD, it takes some time. This particular person that I know, they had pretty big releases, so they went to RIAA as well to get some help with it, but their distributor helped get all of the rights and the money. Because when there is a claim, and correct me if I'm wrong, when 88 has a claim for ISRC, CD Baby has a claim for ISRC, the money is like at a standstill. So somebody has to get it straight. So one of us is gonna work on getting this straight and getting the money.
There's a lot of other metadata that goes along with it. I mean, there's the UPC for the album, the Universal Product Code, that represents whether that was delivered as a single, an EP, or a full-length album. There's the songwriter credits. There's who it was distributed by. That's a piece of metadata that the DSPs are also receiving and using to match. I mean, it's a lot, to your point. It happens because all kinds of crazy things happen if you can dream it or not. It can happen in the music industry, whether it's on purpose or an accident, right? And so that's why managing all of this metadata is so important, and making sure that you're registered in all the right places. It is still work. That was one thing that we talked about, as well as like, even though there's all this great technology out there, and we're really curious to see how it continues to be used and expanded in ways to help collect the right royalties and pay them to the right artists. You know, what about fraud? What about managing bad actors? What about, you know, all the work that you guys still have to do to make sure that you're registering, not just with Sound Exchange and the MLC, but then talking about neighboring rights. We didn't even talk about neighboring rights today. Like, I see Allison in the back and I'm like, yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and most companies have conflict resolution departments. Like the MLC and Sound Exchange definitely do. They're very well developed. But almost anything that you think of, there's a strategy in place for how to deal with conflicts. So I think that, you know, you should look into, like, if there is a specific, if you're talking about like a specific example, you should go to that.
We actually did, and it was YouTube, and we didn't get anywhere, and the product has a distributor.
And the product has a distributor.
Yes.
It takes a while.
It's kind of complicated because the original recording that the artist made was distributed in this country by a company that was then absorbed by another company.
Oh yeah.
Who believes that they acquired the rights in some.
Like I said, if you can dream it in the music industry, it's happening.
It was a cluster for sure.
For sure.
Thank you.
So I have a question along the lines of everything that you three amazing people have been talking about. Say I'm a new artist. I get started with this. I run into a conflict. Which of the three can I actually make a phone call to and not have to access by email? Can one call CD Baby and actually get someone on the line?
No, bring back the phone calls to CD Baby. They were so cool. The phone support to CD Baby was so good.
I want to ask her this because I'm at that crossroads. Do I go DistroKid? Do I go CD Baby? And I mean, and I've got a full-length, very high-end, professionally recorded and mastered, you know, album essentially, but I'm old school. I was that studio musician back in the 80s that went through where somebody else paid for it, and I was just a hired gun. Now I'm doing my own, so I want to make a good decision, and if I run into something like these topics you brought up, how do I reach people besides waiting for an email that might take a week when I need an answer tomorrow?
Well, we no longer have full phone support like we did, but escalated issues we will, you know, do some phone direct contact. Yes, we do have email. We do have our chatbot. We have a robust help center. Like, we spend so much time, and some of my team member, my whole team is back there. Actually, the product team. We spend so much time thinking about every single question that you might have, or every single thing that goes into. Very soon, we're about to launch the ability to for you to add lyrics when you release your product, and we are hammering that out. Like, what is the question? What is the problem? How can we help our artists this way in our helps in the article? So no, we no longer have phone support. Escalated issues, we do have phone call. We will do direct calls, but our emails. They answer the email. They answer so many emails every day in our chatbot. Sometimes you will get a live person in a chatbot, but we work so tirelessly with our customer improvement department that handles our chatbot with every single answer to every single question that you can think of. But you guys have phone support, don't you?
Yeah, I would say for ADA, if you have like a services deal, then you do get phone support. But those deals are they're not even sure like how those deals would get made. like we have A&Rs who are kind of out there making deals with pretty large. Number 2. Also tough. But yeah, so if you have a deal with a services company like ADA, then you can get phone support. But for like our DIY, which is called Level, it's not scalable to offer phone support. Even at DistroKid, phone support was never even close to being on the roadmap. The best they could do is email.
Right.
But I will say, like, I think a lot of distributors, like, I know it feels like sending an email, like you're going to be waiting a week, but at DistroKid it was like a 24-hour turnaround for resolution. I'm going to guess CD Baby's probably similar.
We totally miss our phone support too. Like a lot, we miss talking to our customers. We miss talking to our artists, but it's not scalable to answer as many people as we possibly
Right.
can.
I mean, like if you run into something, like say you're filling something out, you're new, you're going through the list, you're good at following directions because you're a business person and you have other things that are pressing that you require that ability. But say you get stuck and there's something you don't trust because if you make the wrong decision or enter the wrong thing, you could be in a legal conundrum. How do you say, hey, I got to question number 5, but I don't know how to proceed from here and there's nothing in the FAQ?
There's so many resources out there. I mean, that's the whole thing is there's more people that are able to record music because technology now allows that in your bedroom as opposed to having to go to, a full-blown studio, which is also wonderful.
Right.
But, we're talking about scale, right? And music in the market has scaled because technology has allowed it, right? But that means that there's a lot of people that need to be educated on how the music industry that has been around for, well over 100 years, at least in recorded music, definitely longer than that prior to recorded music, but there's a lot of people that now need to be brought up to speed to how this all works and what it all means, and that's why there's all of these resources. The DIY distros, I mean, I point to them as a resource for artists because they're already doing it. They're putting the education out there. They're deep diving. I mean, search their blogs. It is fantastic information. Most of them have YouTube channels, TikToks, Grams, all of the things that they're managing to put the information out there for you. Like, use it. I'm like, I couldn't do a better job myself. Thank you guys.
And our DIY musicians blog answers a lot of the questions, and our chatbot. Like, you could get, we create what's called macros. Like, literally, when you think about every step, if you're stuck, we've thought about it. We have a lot of musicians that work in our company as well, and they are independent artists, and they come to the product team and it's like, they're going to get confused. I'm confused. Like, explain this to me, and they work within us. So our chatbot is definitely accessible to you. We do have people that manage the chatbot outside of just the automatic questions. The DIY musicians blog, our FAQs are really detailed, and if it's escalated, someone will reach back out.
Kevin's podcast is great too.
Yes,
thank you. Yes.
CD Baby podcast.
All right, you guys, I think we've reached the end. Thank you so much, panel. You guys have been amazing. Sponsors, yeah, sure. But I'm going to thank our sponsors, CD Baby, ADA, and the MLC, and also Music Portland.
Two things. I'll just talk. So a couple of things. We've got October 17th at Artichoke Music. We've got a vote like your music career depends on it, because it does. We're going to be breaking down a bunch of the policy issues and the things that are coming up in the upcoming election in November, and harassing people there to make sure that you vote. We'll also be, that wasn't me. So we've got that. We also have the amazing Oregon Music Hall of Fame event that is coming up on, what is the date, people? Where's the date? Oh, October 8th. It's coming right up, 7 p.m. with performances by Satan's Pilgrims, -5, and Louis Longmire.
Oh,
The Oregon Music Hall of Fame does amazing stuff for our community, educating children, bringing up and celebrating our incredible talent. You guys are awesome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.